Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. And if you enjoy this fanfic, then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic.
She looked at him with lust on the mind. His sweat covered body, his hard features, those unique eyes of his that always captivated her at a moment's notice. He played with her hair as she did him, over and over, then they'd switch. When it was over, they would lay down and stare at each other, trading words such as I love you and you're so beautiful. She lay her head on his hard chest and he sighed with the tingling touch of her dark hair. He would hold her body in a tight embrace, and whisper that he loved her, and she would sigh from his warm breath on her earlobe. I love you. He would say. I love you too. She would say, in her sweet feminine voice that always turned him on. It was the same reaction she gave him whenever he spoke with his masculine one. They would sit there after what seemed like an eternity and then go at it again, and again until they were fully satisfied. Staring at each other's eyes was enough for them after that. That's all they wanted to do at that point. Just stop and stare, and when their eyes met, they would intertwine their hands. Talking with such low voices that not even a person who was in the room with them would hear their conversation. It was just the two of them in their own little world called the bedroom. His blue and orange eyes locked onto her white ones and vice versa. He called her perfect in every way, and she would giggle at his flattering comments and then reward him with a kiss, one that them both on. Turn-ons, the thing that usually led to their overnight love sessions, always a crowd pleasure for them. She would hold on to him tight as he crawled out of the bed saying that he would be back in a few minutes. Then she would watch him go out of her room and into the bathroom, being epitome of her perfect man. Strong, handsome, optimistic, a believer, and big, boy was he big. He satisfied her every time they wrestled under the covers. He treated her right. What more could she ask for? He was all she wanted, all she needed, him and nothing more. The knob to her bathroom would click and turn open and he would come walking out, fully and with a smile on his face, and glued to his package were none other but her white eyes, but they would quickly go up to his face again. He was everything she could wish for in a boyfriend. Too bad she couldn't have him though, too bad he wasn't her boyfriend. Hyuga Hinata's eyes snapped open. Looked around in the confines of her own room. Good thing it was her room. The Hyuga heiress felt her face. It felt warm, hot even. Shuffling in bed, Hinata put her back against the wall at the head of her bed. Through all of her squirming she felt something wet in her sheets, between her legs. Hinata lifted up her covers to find her that her panties were soaked and it wasn't water that was in them. Not again, she said with a sad sigh. She had been having the same dream over and over each night, and they were always about a certain Uzumaki Naruto. She got up and inspected her cover to see if she might have soaked them as well, but all was well, as they were dry. Left drawer in her dresser. That's where she kept all of her underwear, and that's where she went, opening it and getting a new pair of underwear while tossing the old wet ones in a basket full of dirty clothes, making sure that she put those ones at the bottom of the basket. Her mouth sounded off another sad sigh as she slipped on her new dry underwear. He was her perfect man, except he had one fatal flaw in him that no other girl saw in him. To the young Hyuga heiress, Uzumaki Naruto was unobtainable. Naruto-kun, she said as she lay back in her bed, the pale moonlight making her face glow and further intensifying how love-stricken she had become over her perfect man. I going to erase your flaw, and I'll be your G-girlfriend. Then the pale-eyed girl slowly drifted off to sleep, beginning to once again dream of her unobtainable prize. You love him, don't you? Hinata's eyes opened once again. She could have sworn that she heard a girl's voice, but she labeled it as a figment of her imagination. You want to be with him, right? The voice came again, this time a little louder. Who are you? What do you want? Hinata pulled her sheets up past her nose so that her covers left enough room for her to see. The one you want, I can help you be with him. Hinata's eyes widened at what the low female voice said. Hinata may not have known who the girl was, but if she would help her get to Naruto then she couldn't be there to hurt her. The thing is, who was she? Where are you? The girl's voice sounded like it was everywhere, ghost-like, in her head. Hinata decided to show some courage and inched her covers away from her face and brought them down to her chest. I'm here in front of you, activate your bloodline. Hinata did as she was told to by the female apparition and activated her family's Kekkei Genkei, the Byakugan. Making the proper hand signs, Hinata's eyes suddenly became surrounded by bulging veins, a trait only for those of the Hyuga family. Her eyes were as wide as saucers when she what, or who was in front of her. Somehow, standing right in front of her, not hidden from the unique vision of the Byakugan, was Chakra. Simply Chakra, it was standing right in front of her. She quickly inched backward as she let out a series of gasps and hard breaths. Don't be afraid. Hinata tried not to be afraid. She tried looking directly at the floating energy source, but couldn't. Her body wouldn't do as she commanded it to. Her mind told her to look, but her fear would not let her body cease its shaking. As she continued to shake and look away from the chakra, and it came closer. Don't come any closer, she said in a low and scared whisper. Why are you here? Her eyes began to tear up from the overwhelming fear that hit them. There was a long silence, as if the world had been put on pause. I'm here to help get to the one you love. I'm on a mission to ensure your happiness. Wah. She heard a quick shush from the suspended chakra in front of her. Say no more, only what I ask. I am an angel, I was sent by the Almighty Kami, here to ensure that you are happy. He has noticed something in you, your everlasting love for a certain boy, even though he was shunned by society and yet you try to acknowledge him. That is something Kami feels should not go on unrewarded. Knowing that she had just been visited by a divine being, Hinata still could not stop shaking. She knew that angels never meant any harm, they were pure beings, but for some reason Hinata couldn't stop being afraid. So you're going to help me? Yes. Oh okay, I'll accept it then. Thank you, young child, but before I aid you tell your name first and who you love. Hinata wiped the tears from her face and found the courage to look directly at the angel. After a few sniffles of relief she spoke. Hyuga Hinata, and I love you Uzumaki NN Naruto. Good. The angel of chakra said. Now, hold out your hand. Hinata reluctantly stuck out her hand to the female force of chakra. Touch me. Hinata did as she was told and touched the chakra, and in what seemed like an instant the angel was gone in a vibrant flash of light. Hinata rubbed her eyes and blinked several times in confusion. Angel-sama, where are you? In here, she said in her graceful voice. Inside of you, I will not do everything for you, I'm only here to guide you, Hinata-chan. Hinata nodded and laid back in her bed. Angel-sama, is there anything that you would like for me to call you while you are here? Angel is perfect for now, as I cannot tell you my real name. Oh, and Hinata-chan, don't tell anyone about my existence in you. Hinata nodded once again before she closed her eyes and went on to resume her previously interrupted fantasies of her perfect man. Deactivation, it seemed impossible, in Naruto's eyes. It simply couldn't be done for some reason. That's what the blonde nin seemed to think, well before he actually did it. It was something that he thought that he would never do, but a giant nine-tailed fox's training would always help a person through their troubles, if they accepted it. A feeling of pride raced through Naruto's very being as he stared at his reflection in the mirror. It was great to be back, but if Naruto had to be honest, he liked his original eyes better. They were more unique, orange and blue eyes suited him better, than just regular old blue ones. Now my eyes look normal again. Naruto said with a bored sigh, his already faded away. How boring. You know Kyuubi, I thought that I would be glad when I finally deactivated my geostigma, but actually having normal eyes. He thought as he flashed his Kekkei Genkei on and off in front of his bedroom mirror. Normal, unique, definitely unique. My eyes look way better with the geostigma on. Naruto said as he openly expressed his opinion on his bloodline limit to Kyuubi. Naruto continued to deactivate and reactivate his Kekkei Genkai, constantly replaying the effects it had on his eyes. Naruto, you said that you wouldn't open the scroll yesterday because it was late and you had just learned to control your Kekkei Genkai, but here's a suggestion: how about you stopping around and open the scroll already? Naruto jumped back from the mirror at the sound of Kyuubi's demonic voice. Okay, I'll open it, geez. Naruto flashed his eyes on and off on final time before walking off to his room to get the scroll. Bottom drawer, underneath the underwear if I remember correctly. Naruto said as he opened his drawers, digging through new and old pairs of boxers. Through the feel of soft linen his hand hit something hard, the scroll. With a satisfactory sigh, Naruto picked up the scroll and tossed it onto his bed. He looked at it and opened up his mental link with Kyuubi. Hey Kyuubi, you ready for this? He felt something of a mental nod come from the fox. Alright, check this out. Naruto looked at the seal on the scroll with his geostigma activated. He flashed it off, and with the certain glowing that came from the scroll the seal started to light up and burn away. TCH, easy as pie. Hey Baka, don't go around thinking you're all high and mighty now that you have a Kekkei Genkai. It'd be best to just keep this whole thing undercover, understand? Naruto looked at the scroll and chuckled with a satisfied look on his face. Not at all, Kyuubi. I don't have a clue. Who cares if I tell people of my Kekkei Genkai? It's not like they'll even know about it. People don't even know who my dad is, let alone what my eyes can do. Now I'm going to ask this again, but this time answer me with words. You ready for this? There was a long silence. It seemed like an angry silence. Yeah, I'm ready for this, brat. Good thing too, I probably wouldn't have opened it without you anyway. The seal fully burned away, and Naruto slipped his finger underneath the frail paper of the old scroll. Naruto's eyes widened when he saw what was in it. His eyes were like two big white UFOs that were turned sideways. There was nothing but descriptions to a jutsu and some writings. The jutsu, named the Rasengan, an S-rank jutsu, the only known jutsu of the Namikaze clan. It had a warning underneath it in big red letters. They read, "Do not attempt to use this jutsu without following instructions." Underneath that were none other than the instructions to performing the jutsu. The writing at the far right of the scroll had the words for Naruto Namikaze next to them. He began to read. It read, Naruto, I don't have much time left, so I'm leaving you this one jutsu, the Rasengan, a technique of my creation, one of my best jutsus I have ever made. There is one other person who knows this jutsu, Naruto. His name is Jiraiya. I assume that you only are reading this, so I'll go on. What I'm about to tell is about the geostigma. It will help protect you from the Seiki. I hope. It is the true nature of our clan's Kekkei Genkai, its true name, and why it is so coveted by the denizens of the divine world. Son, the geostigma, its power isn't that of a normal Kekkei Genkai. True, it is similar to other Dujutsu-type Kekkei Genkai such as the Sharingan of the Uchiha clan or the Byakugan of the Hyuga clan, but its power is very different. The geostigma is nothing but an alias to its real name. You will have to find out its true name by yourself, as did all Namikaze. Along with the changes in eye color that the geostigma give you, it also holds a very distinct power, the power of manipulation. As a Namikaze, the geostigma allows us to manipulate nature's elements, the reason for it being so coveted among the Seiki. The power of manipulation is a powerful asset when you are the divine. Naruto, as you may not know, but the form of the geostigma that you should contain now is not its complete form. What you possess is nothing but its premature form, so I'm asking you to learn how to control your Kekkei Genkai and help it evolve within your eyes. If you wish to survive, then you must learn to use it correctly and protect yourself from the Seiki. Survive, Naruto, survive. I know that this may be a lot on your shoulders and I didn't mean for you to carry this burden, but you are the last Namikaze. I'm sorry. Naruto, you are one who is to rebuild Namikaze clan and be the first to awaken the geostigma to its final stage of maturity, a feat that none of us have ever done. This is what my legacy was, the rebuilding of our clan, the awakening of the geostigma and the destruction of the Seiki as a whole. It's up to you, Namikaze Naruto. Namikaze Minato. P.S. A warning of the Seiki, beware the Black Phoenix. Naruto trembled, his body shook violently with rage and sadness. His grip on the open paper of the scroll tightened, almost ripping it apart. So I'm the only one who can destroy these things, the only one who can fully awaken the geostigma. He chuckled. Father, you're such an idiot, what were you thinking? HIW, can you expect me to defend myself from these things? How am I supposed to rebuild the clan? What does he want me to do? Every girl in Konoha? Naruto. No, Kyuubi, it's okay, I can handle this. My father knew I could, he wouldn't have put this much responsibility on me if he didn't. A small smile began to creep on his lips. His chuckle grew louder. Then if this is what I must do, then so be it. Hey, you sure took that much better than I had expected, I'm surprised at your maturity. Naruto shrugged and stood up. He wiped some dust off his shoulder and blew on his new black attire. Naruto rolled up the scroll in his hand and put it back in his drawer. I guess that's just the kind of person my father would have wanted me to be. That doesn't mean that I'm not mad though. Still, I'm glad that you didn't overreact like your past self would have. Nah, that's not who I am anymore. I'm a different person, and besides, I really don't feel like getting angry right now. Naruto said as he headed toward his door. But right now I need some time to think. Not to mention that I need to figure out a way to awaken my Kekkei Genkai to its fullest potential. He headed towards the door with the Hokage stone faces as his destination. When he opened it, he came face to face with a hooded figure, a female. Her hood covered her facial features and she wore a tightly fitted black trench coat. Naruto didn't fail to notice the curves of puberty that adorned her nice body. Who the hell are you? She said nothing, she only walked forward, trying to enter his apartment, but Naruto blocked her and fixed an annoyed glare on her. You know it's impolite to just try to walk into a person's house without introducing yourself, so how about you answer my question, who the hell are you? She giggled and brought her hand up to Naruto's chest, but Naruto caught it. What the hell do you think you're doing? What do you think, I'm dumb or something? If you're going to try to attack me, you'd better learn to conceal your chakra better. Since I got up this morning I've felt it flaring. The hooded female gave a short gasp of shock and then laughed again. Naruto's eyes widened when he was blown back into his apartment by an invisible force. She walked in and took of her hood. You old bitch, you'll pay for that. Old bitch, I'll have you know that I'm only 13 and I'm not a bitch. She pulled off her hood, revealing short blonde hair that had two horn-like stirps of hair that stuck out when she took off her hood, and green eyes that rivaled the luster of Haruno Sakura's green orbs. Hey, I may not like that bitch named Sakura, but she's got great eyes. She walked up to a still prone Naruto and picked him up by the nape of his jacket's collar in a sheer display of strength. The blonde stared at him with blazing emerald green eyes, not to mention that her face had a blush that could compete with Hyuga Hinata's. Why you? Who do you think I am, calling me an old bitch? If you weren't a Namikaze, I'd. Naruto grabbed her hand, shoved her off. How did you know I was a Namikaze? Naruto was in a state of shock. Nobody but Kakashi and Ojiazan were supposed to know about his identity as a Namikaze. Now Naruto really wanted to know who this person was. She didn't seem to be a Konoha nin, she didn't seem to be a nin at all, she didn't even wear a Hita 8. She could have been a nuke nin, from some distant place like Suna or something, but she just didn't seem to play the part. Our leader told us, actually we all know who you are and I've been sent here to retrieve you. You may not know who I am, but Seiki. The blonde girl's confident smirk left her face after Naruto said those words. What? I said Seiki, an organization of powerful and ruthless hunters, or should I say collectors, that once hunted down the revered Namikaze clan and exterminated us in secrecy. You desired our Kekkei Genkai and now I suppose you're here to finish the job. She stood in front of Naruto with an impressed expression on her face. Wow. She said, I guess you do know who I am. I doesn't matter though, you're still going to have to come with me. Hey, what's so funny? She moved her face in closer to Naruto's, earning her an annoyed blush from his impassive smile. Nothing's really that funny, but I was just thinking that you're really inattentive for someone in the Seiki. The blonde girl's eyes widened when she felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned her head around to see another Naruto about to come down on her with a kunai. Gotcha, he said, but before the Naruto clone could make contact with her, she disappeared, throwing him off balance and making him almost hit the real Naruto. She reappeared in front of his door and shut it closed and locked it. She put her hands on her hips. Now Namikaze, be quiet and come with me. I would rather avoid fighting, so, you get the point. Naruto smirked while his shadow clone dispersed. You may not want to fight, but I do. He stuck his hand out and gathered his chakra. First tell me your name. She sighed and rolled her eyes. Like it really matters, but since you want to hear the name of the person who takes you in, I'll tell you. I am Lerxine, the savage nymph of the Seiki, pleased to meet your acquaintance. She said as she gave Naruto a curt bow. Good. Fuden. Repusho. Wind release. Gale wind palm. A blast of chakra converted air blasted out of Naruto's open hand and hit Lerxine head on, blasting her through the closed door of Naruto's apartment and making her crash onto the streets below. Naruto ran full speed and jumped out of his house after her. Son of a bitch, she said as she backflipped and landed on her feet and looked up at the still falling Naruto. That's Naruto to you, tramp, he said as he spun his body forward, doing several front flips into a high-flying axe kick onto the blonde Seiki member. Take this. But Naruto's plan failed, as Lerxine grabbed his foot and seemingly absorbing the impact of his high-risk maneuver and making the ground beneath crack from the force of Naruto's kick. She pulled Naruto's leg down and gave Naruto a powerful headbutt, keeping him suspended in the air for a little longer. That's not going to work, Namikaze. She then punched Naruto into the air. She then disappeared and kicked him back down into the ground. Damn you, Naruto said as he spit up blood, watched Lerxine hit the ground with grace. He stood up and flashed his Kekkei Genkai on. He suddenly felt his chakra begin to surge. Is that the geostigma? Lerxine thought as she watched Naruto's eye color change from blue to blue and orange. This may get sticky. Why did Master Zexin send me to capture this kid? I'm the weakest member, and besides I just joined this organization. What am I thinking? I can take this guy, no matter how good looking he is. Lerxine stared at Naruto's eyes with a blush. Naruto smirked then disappeared. Lerxine's green eyes widened as she stumbled back in surprise. She felt a great force on her back and was lifted up in the air. She yelled in pain from the force of Naruto's punch that was soon followed by a crushing elbow that sent her towards the ground. Kaden. Gukaku no Jutsu, said Naruto as he finished making the proper hand seals. He breathed in deeply and spat out a giant fireball of fire. The flames burst onto the ground, making a huge explosion. Naruto landed on the ground in front of the burning crater. He smiled at the sound of the crackling flames, but then he heard it. That damn demon child, I knew he was no good. He's brought this type of commotion into the village, why doesn't he go and die already? Naruto heard the scared cries of the villagers, ran away trying to get away from his fight with Lerxine. He saw the faces of the frightened children who saw what he just did. Burning a girl probably wasn't the best choice in this scenario. Still, he didn't care. He made a tiger seal and in one quick motion he ate the flames up into his mouth, making them vanish within a few seconds. Seiki, huh? I thought she would be tougher than that. Too bad though, I was expecting more of a fight. Naruto's eyes widened when he sensed a familiar chakra signature behind him. Really? You wanted a fight then? How about I stop playing around and give it to you then, Naruto? Suddenly a sharp pain went through Naruto's side. He looked down and saw that there was a kunai sticking out of his right ribcage. He spat out even more blood as he looked behind him and saw Lerxine. Now come with me, Namikaze. No, I'm not. Going anywhere. Naruto yelled as he grabbed the blade and thrust it back out of his ribs. He spun around and hit Lurksine with a powerful backhand, sending her crashing into one of the many street-side markets that were run by local Konoha villagers. You, and good luck catching me. Naruto yelled as he disappeared in a flash of speed. His blood still staining the spot where he stood. How troublesome, she said as she looked around. Sorry about the boy folks, I'll have him captured in a matter of minutes. She raised her hands up to plead with the scared villagers. Gee good, now go get him, said a random villager. Giving a thumbs up, she closed her eyes and pulsed her chakra. Found you. Lurksine then disappeared. Naruto breathed hard as he jumped through the forest looking for a place to rest. He saw a thick tree and decided that that would be the spot for a pit stop. Damn, she got me, Naruto said as he rested on the trunk of a large tree. He gazed at the sun trying to catch his breath, his Kekkei Genkai deactivated and his eyes back to blue. Hey Kyuubi, hurry up and finish healing my wound already. Don't rush me, if apply too much chakra to the wound that could end up doing more harm than good. Alright, just hurry it up, I want to go and kick that bitchess already. Oh yeah, kick her like you did back in Konoha. Kyuubi asked in a very sarcastic way. Shut up Kyuubi, I should kick your. Naruto listened to the sounds of the forest, scanning them for any signs of Lurksine. The only sound that Naruto really wanted to hear was the slight burning sound that came from his wounds healing. Damn, how could have not sensed her presence behind me, she got me. My jutsus didn't work against her and she's got crazy strength. I've really got to think of a way to beat her before she gets to me. Naruto said as his wound fully healed up. Too late Namikaze. Naruto's head jerked at the sound of her voice. He looked around in many directions. Left, up, down, right, there she was. Naruto's eyes widened as he saw Lurksine sitting right next to him with a happy grin on her face. Naruto said nothing, he was simply frozen. Compared to this girl who was only a year older than him, he might as well have been. Her speed made Naruto look like a slug. How fast are you? I don't know, how about you help me figure that out? Lurksine said as she backhanded him into the tree he was against. That backhand was soon followed by a swift left punch that Naruto barely evaded by ducking. She then spun around and attempted to hit him a spinning back kick, but Naruto dodged by jumping up, sticking to the side of the tree with her under him. Don't run. Lurksine went after Naruto, but he jumped out of the way. He then flipped over so that he was upside down facing her. He then started to make many hand seals. Futen. Datapa. Wind release. Great breakthrough. Naruto brought his hand to his mouth and took in a deep breath. He blew out a huge gust at Lurksine. It would have done a lot of damage if it had hit her, but unfortunately for Naruto, Lurksine was already gone. Naruto watched as his blast of air destroyed the tree and ripped it to pieces. Too bad you missed, she said from behind him. Before Naruto could react, she grabbed his arms and placed them at his side. She then went into a suicide lotus-style pile driver. As both of them fell down, they gained speed, going faster and faster. Damn, Naruto thought. He made reach for his kunai pouch, grabbing 2 kunai out of it, but it was too late. The hard ground was his inevitable destination. No. Bye-bye. Both blondes hit the ground with terrible force, scattering dust and rock everywhere. The end result, a huge crater made by the force of their impact. There was a huge plume of dust in the air. By the looks of the crash, it seemed as if both blondes had been injured by the suicidal move, but that idea was gone as Lurksine jumped back out of the smoke. She waited for the dust to clear. I hope I didn't kill him. Master Zexen would be furious with me if I did. She held her breath in hopes of Naruto not being dead, but when the dust settled, her eyebrows rose in shock when she saw Naruto seemingly floating in the air inches above the ground. He held on to a thin piece of string in both of his hands. It looked he was hanging by something invisible. She looked at where his hands were pointed and saw 2 kunai lodged into the side of 2 trees. Connected to them were 2 strings of thread, the same 2 that Naruto was holding onto. Lurksine gasped at her newfound revelation. Naruto hadn't taken any damage at all. He flicked two kunai out at the last moment and using the string that was attached to them he pulled himself up, forcing her to let go of him at the last second and making her take all of the damage. It was smart plan, Lerxine would have to admit that, but it got her mad that he actually pulled it off. Why you? This is an outrage. Naruto looked at her and let go of his two strings, letting himself fall into the crater. Man, that's some tough thread. Naruto said as he landed on his feet. Suddenly he saw a flash of black and yellow go into the crater. Baka, Baka, you think you're so smart. Coming up with that plan to escape my attack. Well, I have you know that I've got much more energy than that, so a little fall like that won't damage my body. Lerxine circled Naruto over and over, creating afterimages of herself and making it look like there's more than one of her. Naruto frantically looked around trying to figure out which one was the real Lerxine. You see, Naruto Namikaze, you can't beat my speed. I've got an idea. How about you use that geostigma of yours on me, show me its real ability. She laughed wildly as she dashed around the blonde nin. Come on, do it. Naruto felt something pierce his right arm. He looked down and saw that it was bleeding. Another sharp pain hit his left leg, it began to bleed. Naruto saw two shuriken on the ground, he suspected that that was what hit him. No, really. Soon Naruto was slowly bombarded with shuriken after shuriken, his body riddled with cuts. They would heal, but with this many shuriken coming at him it wouldn't matter if they heal because two new cuts were made every time one healed itself. You want me to use it? Naruto said. Yes, use it, Namikaze, use before I cut up that nice face of yours. Well, Naruto had to switch between talking and receiving the pain from the numerous shuriken that hacked away at his body. I can't really use it that much, I don't even know what it does. When I use it gives me a boost in chakra, but other than that I have no idea what to do with it. Lerxine stopped circling Naruto and stopped right in front of him. She grabbed him by his collar and picked him up like before. What do you mean that you can't use it? Then what's the point of you being a Namikaze? Naruto stared into the eyes of his female opponent, then he remembered what that letter had said, the true nature of the geostigma, manipulators. That's what the Namikaze were, manipulators of elements. The Namikaze and their ability to manipulate nature in every aspect and form. He looked down at the ground and moved his hand while flashing his Kekkei Genkai on. What are you doing? Lerxine asked, not aware of what was about to happen to her. He moved his finger upward and a tiny segment of the ground moved with it. His eyes began to move, the orange tint that came from his pupil became an orange ring that circled his entire pupil. Not failing to notice this, Lerxine let go of him and backed away cautiously. Answer me, what are you doing with those eyes? Her voice was shaky, afraid. Naruto saw this and smiled. I said that I didn't know what these eyes of mine did. Well, guess what? I just found out. Naruto threw a punch in the air and a rock burst out of the ground in front of Lerxine and smashed into her, ramming her into a tree before finally breaking from impact. She let out a little squeak at the pain and fell to her hands and her knees. Elemental manipulators, the true nature of the Namikaze and their Kekkei Genkai. We use our special chakra to manipulate the many aspects of nature and all its elements. Lerxine shakily got up and faced Naruto. She had gotten cut badly by a sharp piece of bark and was bleeding badly. If what you say is true and you just learned how to utilize its potential only seconds ago, then why is it that you can use it so well? Naruto laughed while holding his head high in an arrogant snobby fashion. Well, since you want to know, I'll tell you. The thing is, my chakra is extremely flexible, giving me advanced chakra control, and as you can see, learning something that would usually take days to learn will only take a days or even less depending on what it is. Naruto stomped on the ground and another rock pillar burst out of the ground and hitting Lerxine in the stomach and knocking her into the air. If I can manipulate earth, how about fire? Let your chakra flare, enrage it, make it feral. Naruto ed in a deep breath. He felt the heat rising in himself and his chakra. He blew out a large torrent of red flames, sending them straight for Lerxine. Lerxine watched as the flames rushed in closer to her cloaked body. The bright flames illuminated her emerald eyes, brightened her skin. Beauty before death was what Lerxine had just become. She saw just beyond the corner of the flame, Naruto standing there waiting for it to burn her flesh off. She closed her eyes waiting to feel the heat of the boy's attack. Damn, she said, but when she opened her eyes to see the flames that meant her doom, they widened. The brightly torrent of fire that had once come after her was gone and she began to fall. Only to be caught in the hands of Naruto. But why didn't you kill me? Naruto looked out into the distance. I'm the enemy, so kill me. He shook his head. Nah, I'd rather keep you alive, and besides I need you for information on your organization. So consider yourself lucky, I'm sparing you, for now. Hey, how disgraceful, I got beaten by a 12-year-old. She then passed out. Naruto looked at her and then looked at her wounds, then to his already healing ones. Stupid, you're only 13, there's not that much of an age difference. Then it hit him. Wait, my house, Aang blew a hole in the door, damn it. It's not even nighttime yet. Naruto just noticed it was only afternoon. What was he supposed to do for the rest of the day? He just beat some blonde chick and figures out how to use it. Now what was he supposed to do? Really? What the hell was he supposed to do? A question that I have never found the answer to. Naruto was seriously pissed. He just got attacked by the girl he was holding in his hands. He was tired and sore. The village still hated him, and no, there was a Aang hole in spot where his door was supposed to be. What else could go wrong? Well, there was the fact that he was so low on chakra that he didn't have enough energy to run back to his house. He had to walk all the way back to his small apartment carrying Lerxine, and boy was she heavy. All the villagers looked at him in fear and disgust. As if they all thought that he had just finished raping the young blonde, then proceeded to beat her. Even though that's not what really went down, the sight of him walking down the street with a young blonde girl who had ripped up clothes, was bleeding and slung over his shoulder wasn't too nice. He couldn't just walk past with an unconscious girl and say, "Oh no, it's not what you think, she actually tried to abduct me." Funny story actually. You see, insert alibi that no one will believe here. Yeah, that wasn't something Naruto was used to explaining. Finally he got to the second-story floor that was supposed to hold his front door. Instead there was a giant hole courtesy of Naruto, in place it. Naruto stood in front of the unsightly damage done to his door, and simply observed. Observed with a twitching eyes and throbbing vein popping out of his head. This Aang. He looked down at the still unconscious Lerxine, shrugged and walked through the door. He went into his room, one of the few undamaged parts of the apartment, and placed her on his bed. It was kind of stupid to put the enemy on your own bed, but it was what he could do at the time. He walked back to his broken door, grumbled. This is all her fault, he said. Now all Naruto needed to do was interrogate Lerxine about the Seiki and he could let her go or kill her if he felt like it, plus he also had a plus-sized hole where his door was supposed to be. Yeah, he would have to figure out what to do about that later, but that girl came first. He came back in his room where Lerxine was still sleeping soundly on his bed. He looked at her sleeping face, contemplating on whether or not he should wake her up right there on the spot. He had to admit though, for a supposedly evil member of an organization of people connected to the divine, she sure seemed like a normal girl, if you subtracted the tightly fitted trench coat, but then if you subtracted that, she would be. All of this swirled around Naruto's highly developed brain, but immediately stopped when he came to the thought of seeing Lerxine. He didn't need that right now, all he needed was information. Oh Naruto-kun, I know what you're thinking, have you taken a liking to this girl here? She does have a pretty face, you know, and her body matches well with it too. No way, I'll admit she looks good, but she's a member of the Seiki. She tried to kill me, if you don't remember. And besides, Kyuubi, how do you know what she looks like? Simple, I just see what you see. It's like I'm looking at a big screen television and the outside world is the channel. Naruto tapped his chin before looking once more at the sleeping blonde girl on his bed. Then he noticed that some of her clothing was ripped up, revealing a great deal of her developing bosom. He leaned in closer to take a look, but quickly ducked back when he heard Kyuubi laughter in the back of his head. No, it's definitely not worth it, Naruto said while shaking his head side to side. Ha, I'll give you an hour. I bet that by then you would have already raped this girl in her sleep. Naruto edged his head to the side. Don't be such a dumb Kyuubi. I detest rapists and I would never become one of them, he thought as he closed his eyes and sat down in front of his bed in a lotus-style position. This time it was different. Instead of 13 people they only had 12. Everything was there. Brightly lit room, check. Eerie atmosphere, check. 13 people in black trench coats, a no-go. They were missing one person. So unlike last time 11 people stood in a brightly lit room, they all stood around a 12th person who was the esteemed leader. It seems someone here is missing. Zexin spoke in an stoic tone. Does anyone know the whereabouts of a certain Lerxine Leones? When no one answered he chuckled. I see then, our little savage nymph has failed then, no matter she was not of importance to us. Zexin said in an uncaring manner. She may have not been important to you, but she was to me. Zexin turned to face the person who wielded voice that angry, his hood still covering his face. Ah, Lark Leones, you grace this hall once again with another one of your unrequested outburst. Oh, I'm sorry, it seems that I have forgotten, but is Lerxine not your younger sister? Lark pulled off his black hood to show his angry face to Zexin and the others. Yes, and that's why I don't appreciate you speaking of her as if she was a useless toy. Don't take it that way, Lark. As I can't use a toy to my advantage, she would be more like a tool. That's something I can use. Lark's green eyes that matched that of his sister's went ablaze. He balled his fist up and looked down. Don't speak of her like that, I said. Lark said behind gritted teeth. Zexin took off his hood, revealing long silver hair and piercing red eyes to Lark, and stared at him with glare so cold and so chilling that it could probably freeze hell over. Remember, Lark, it was you who brought her into this, you introduced her to this world, my world, and so long as she remains in it I can speak of her in any way I choose. Lark took a couple steps back and his breathing quickened. Zexin's glare was hard and evil enough to make him feel his own heart beating. In other words, Lark just got punked. Lark tried staring down his leader, but it was of no avail. He needed to get out of that room, and now. I shall go and look for her. If I brought into your world TT, then I'll go and bring her back to it. He turned around and tried to walk away, but something stopped him, some feeling in his body telling him that if he took another step he might have dropped dead right there. I don't recall asking you to go and retrieve her, Lark. Please come back. Lark turned around with an angry expression on his face, his teeth grounded into each other. He wanted to tell his leader to piss off right then and there, but he couldn't bring himself up to do so. So he just stood there, hoping that Zexin would let him go and find his little sister. Too bad Zexin wasn't the type of man to let anything go. Lark, you still didn't take your initial position, and that would make me very unhappy if you did not follow orders. The Lark felt it again, that feeling like he was staring death in the face, but this time he felt a great deal of it, more like he was staring the Shinigami in the face. Yes, Zexin-sama. Good, Lark-kun. He was nothing compared to Zexin. When it came to power he had Lark beaten. But drive was a different thing. When it came to drive, Lark was number one. His drive to protect his sister was greater than Zexin's unknown personal drive. He would have to find a way to sneak out and save Lerxine without Zexin catching him, and he would do it by any means necessary. But he had to give it to Zexin. Really, he should thank him. Zexin made him feel something that the 24-year-old Lark had not felt in a long time. Fear. Thanks. He almost forgot what it felt like. But that wouldn't stop Lark Leones from reaching his sister. Sacred Mark of the Rising Kekkei Genkai. New title. He investigates. Will she confess? He goes on a mission. Lerxine woke up to the sound of light snoring. She opened her eyes, looking only to see Naruto's face to her side. The snoring was coming from him. He sat in a cross-legged lotus-style position with his hands on his knees. She looked at Naruto's face, then to back at the ceiling, in which she woke up looking at. Her sides ached and she was still short of breath. Naruto had dealt more damage to her body than she thought. She made one more glance at Naruto before sighing loudly. Still looking at his face, she spoke to his sleeping face. "You blonde bastard. You beat me, but don't worry, I'll come back and kill you myself." Lurksine hoisted herself up with the little strength that she still had left in her petite body. She moved in the bed. It creaked. Naruto twitched slightly. Then it hit her. Lurksine looked down at her black trench coat, which was now decorated with tiny cuts and fairly sized tears in the fabric. Her attire was pretty beat up and had quite a few tears in the upper abdomen region, which did nothing but reveal part of her bust to Naruto. With a blush, she quickly shuffled around and covered her chest with the available material in the room, her hands. With a speed as slow could get, she threw another quick look at Naruto. She sighed. He was still sleeping. Good. He's asleep. Still asleep. She didn't even know why she cared though. He was her target. Her mission was to kill him, and it shouldn't have mattered. Yet she still cared whether or not he saw anything. Maybe it was her just being insecure, maybe. She knew that she couldn't stay here. If the rest of the organization found out about her being saved by the enemy, then they would probably have her head on a silver, fully decorated platter. Well, everyone but her brother. Lark was his name. The name of her brother and the name of the reason why she was even part of the organization called Seiki. Mental images of her brother flowed through her mind as she stared out the window and into the moon. It was full this time, not like that night. Not like the night her and Lark pledged their loyalty to the Seiki. The first time she was introduced to Master Zexin Lurksine was only 9 years old. She with her brother and the moon had been new. It was his fault that she was in this position, being trapped in the enemy's home, if this old broken excuse of an apartment could be called a home. Another loud sigh crawled out of her mouth. Naruto twitched again. It may have been her brother's fault, but she still loved him and she would continue to love, no matter what it was that Seiki said or did, she would still be his sister. But that wasn't important right now. Now she needed to get the hell out of this hellhole and come back to kill the demon that lived in it, the blonde demon. Gathering up some strength, she pushed herself up again. The bed creaked. "Don't move." She froze up. Lurksine sat there frozen in the most peculiar of poses in front of a now awake Naruto. "Why shouldn't I move, huh? Because I've got some things that I need to ask you, and they need to ask right now." Lurksine frowned. The wrinkles on her forehead came out of their hiding. She stared at Naruto, trying to mentally convey the message that she didn't want to stay in his house. It continued for what seemed like minutes, seconds for Naruto, however. But the platinum blonde Seiki member silently sat back down on the bed when she saw Naruto's eyes express a flash of orange. Her legs tightly shut and her hands placed on them. "Good. Now I want you to tell me something about the Seiki." Naruto noticed that her body physically tensed when he mentioned the word Seiki. He would be sure to store it away in his mind and save as his trump card. Seeing her reaction to the word Seiki, Naruto stayed silent and looked at her, or looked at the top of her head anyway, for Lurksine hung her head down low, not showing her face. She only showed the naturally light color of her blonde strands. "I won't tell you." Naruto raised an eyebrow in amusement. "You, a vulnerable, damaged blonde girl who was technically an assassin and infiltrated the borders of Konohagakure no Sato under the orders of a possible enemy, and will be put to death if she doesn't tell me what I want. I don't think you're in the position to be not cooperating, Lurksine." Lurksine narrowed her eyes at Naruto. If she wanted to, she could kick his black jacket wearing and bust out of this shabby place, but something told him not to do it. Maybe it was her gut, or maybe it was the fact that she realized that she could possibly be killed over trying to assassinate Naruto. It was probably that gut feeling of hers. "You know, for a member of the Seiki, you're not what I expected. Fine, if you won't tell me, then I won't ask anymore." Naruto began to walk out the door, but before he fully walked out, he turned around and said this: "But if you won't agree to give the information that I want, then I'm afraid that you won't be able to leave this apartment." He then turned around and proceeded to walk out of the room. Lurksine stayed quiet for a moment and laughed. It was a loud laugh, the sort of laugh that someone would use to mock a person, more of a cackle. She was thinking about leaving right there just to show him how wrong he was. She flared her chakra and gathering about as much force as she could possibly gather up in her current state. This should be enough to get through the wall, she said in a mockingly peppy way. Let me think. Use a jutsu, break down the walls. Oh, I know. I'll use a jutsu. She made a rapid sequence of hand signs, ending in the tiger seal. Kaden. Gook. Suddenly Lurksine's arms contracted and bent themselves behind her back. Her arms going out in wild spasms. Next thing she knew, the same thing was happening to her legs. They made her roll of the bed and fall onto her knees. She screamed out from the pain in her arms. Did Naruto hear it? She tried moving her arms, but that only made the pain worse, likewise the pain in her legs. What the hell is this? Namikaze, just what the hell did you do to me while I was unconscious? She heard the faint sound of Naruto yelling behind the closed door. She couldn't quite completely make out what it was that he said, but it sounded as if he had told her to stay here until he came back. But surely that wasn't happening. He honestly wouldn't leave a potentially dangerous threat just flailing around alone in his house. Well, he did, for all she heard in response to her screaming was the door closing, which she had no idea how he fixed. She thrashed about wildly, whipping the short strands of hair from her face as she fell and rolled all over the floor. Something of this magnitude would not go over well with her. It never did, and Lurksine would get her revenge on the Namikaze brat, just as soon as she got out of this restraining position. She continued to fall about Naruto's room, not wanting to see her angry face at that moment. So she continued. Elsewhere. Naruto was bored at the moment. He couldn't figure out what he wanted to do at the moment. Sure, he could have interrogated Lurksine as soon as he woke up, but he figured that she wouldn't cooperate without a fight. He would have won that fight too. Still, with nothing to do but wait until she cooled off, Naruto began to mentally pace. What to do, what to do, what to do, he said as he savored not having to look at the stagnant stares of the ongoing pedestrians who were aware of his existence as the Kyuubi's container. What do you think, Kyuubi? A low rumble sounded in Naruto's head, indicating that the great Kyuubi no Kitsune was thinking. You could always train. Naruto mentally sighed at his furry red inner demon. He expected more from a great immortal who has basically traveled the worlds both above and under, who's seen the Shinigami and still lives. If this was the best that his faithful Biju could, then he shouldn't have bothered asking. Honestly, is that all you can think about gaining power? I'm getting stronger by the day, so is training really necessary? Hell yeah, it is, so get to training. What? Naruto sat down in his trademark lotus position and closed his eyes, diving into his own private mindscape. Mindscape. Naruto stood in front of his demon's gate, the big bars, the seal and the pipes that did nothing but crawl all over his mind. Kyuubi's home, just like he remembered it. Dark, wet, cold, damn, his mind was cold. It was a wonder that he didn't get brain freeze. I said it, he would have to ask Kyuubi about that. Now was the time for him to ask. Hot demonic breath flew out of Kyuubi's huge maw and blew past Naruto's face, blowing back the unruly golden strands of that were placed about on top of his head. His black jacket blew in sync with the rhythmic blast of air that made their way out of Kyuubi's jaws. Naruto's eyes squinted in accordance to the rhythm as well. The giant sealed gate sported a pair of menacing crimson eyes that were locked onto Naruto, the eyes of a nine-tailed fox. They always had a slight tilt to them, it made them look angry. Naruto would have to ask him about that as well. Now was the time. He looked around in the mental image of his inner sanctum, then his eyes went back toward Kyuubi. He began to walk and began to smile. It was more of a hardcore grin though. Hey, sorry for budging in all of a sudden, but I forgot what it was like in here, and I just figured out what I wanted to do while I wait for that girl to cool off. Naruto smiled from the slight tensing of Kyuubi's body he felt through their mental link. He placed his hand on his chin while still approaching the giant bars that held Kyuubi. He wondered if Kyuubi knew what it was that he was about to do. Invasion of privacy was something Kyuubi would never get used to. What are you doing? Naruto continued to walk with his grin taped to his face. Suddenly a claw shot out of the iron bars, aimed for Naruto's face, and they held nothing but power at deadly precision. But when the claw hit Naruto's forehead, it did nothing. The claw of a demon did nothing against the forehead of a child, not a scratch or even a nick. The claw just came out and hit without leaving a trail of blood. Naruto looked at Kyuubi's giant claw and sighed. He rubbed his hand on the nail of his pet fox. It was hard, harder than steel. After a few seconds of rubbing, he put his hand in the air and wagged his finger mockingly. Not in here, Kyuubi. This is my mind, remember. I control it in its entirety, so in here I make the rules. In here the great Kyuubi no Kitsune is as powerful as an academy student. Naruto tapped Kyuubi's claw in order to demonstrate. His tap created a series of cracks where he struck. As you know, my mind is powerful, Kyuubi, so do not try it. He smiled when he heard Kyuubi's low gasp ensue, his claw retracting back into the sealed gate that held him. Naruto continued his walk toward Kyuubi's gate. Don't come in. Why? Just don't, you brat. Nah, I think I will come in. No. Yes. In 3, 2, and 1. Naruto walked fully past the bars of Kyuubi's gate, remembering the feel of the iron bars before he walked in. Cold, hard, lonely, helpless, that's what they felt like, or was it what Kyuubi felt? Did those bars tell Naruto how Kyuubi felt? They could have been the reason Kyuubi felt those feelings. The reason Kyuubi was such a grumpy, mean, belligerent, lonely asshole was because of these bars. His drive to get out of Naruto was so strong that it had made Naruto think, what was the true reason for him giving his true self back? This is what it's like in here. Kyuubi's huge eyes drifted away from Naruto and off into a dark corner of his cell. Is this what it's like, Kyuubi? Damn, no wonder you wanted to get out so badly. Without looking back at Naruto, Kyuubi responded. I still do, Kit. I just don't know how to do that yet. Naruto for some reason felt sad after Kyuubi's response. This fox was trapped with no hope of escape, all his father's doing. Naruto walked up to Kyuubi's snout and placed his hand on top of it. Kyuubi's eyes drifted back to Naruto, crimson on black. Kyuubi, as much as you want to, you can't get out of this place. You're trapped in my mind. It's not my fault, but it's yours. Kyuubi's eyes cringed. He wanted to say something in retaliation, but he withheld it. He did say something though. Are you sure it's my fault I'm in here, Naruto-kun? Naruto furrowed his eyebrow slightly. What do you mean, Kyuubi? You attacked Konoha without warning, and my father gave his life to seal you and me and save Konoha. Is that what they told you? Correction, Naruto-kun. I attacked Konoha out of retaliation from an attempt to kill me. Naruto inched backward. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. He always thought that Kyuubi was naturally evil and attacked Konoha because of sheer bloodlust. Konoha attacked him, sealed him away because he wanted revenge. None of this was even his fault, as Naruto had thought a couple of seconds ago. If what Kyuubi was saying was right, then it was Konoha who brought the demon's wrath upon themselves. Let me show you something, Naruto. Kyuubi closed his eyes, as if imagining something. Then all of a sudden the demon's fur started to stand on end. He opened his huge mouth and let out a roar of fury. His fur began to recede back into his skin. His head started to shrink along with his body. From what Naruto could see in the dark chamber, Kyuubi curled up into a ball. His jaws shrank, his claws shrank, and he was beginning to become more humanoid. As Kyuubi continued his transformation, a wide-eyed Naruto noticed something, a certain smell in the air. It smelled putrid, rancid, dead. It was as if with the oncoming of Kyuubi's transformation the entire atmosphere changed within his mind. Was the room smelling of fear? Something that Naruto always thought he was of good acquaintance with, something he thought he had already felt before, but this was different. This fear was a type of fear he had never felt and thought it existed, Naruto was feeling fear in its most primal stage. The smell grew stronger and forced Naruto to close his eyes to keeping them from feeling the burning sensation in the air. He covered his nose with his hands to block out the smell. His body went numb from the massive amount of fear he was feeling. He could only taste and hear at the moment. Tasting wouldn't do anything, but he could still hear the shifting and shuffling of Kyuubi's fur as he continued his transformation. Gurgling noises, organs shifting around. Naruto could hear it all, and then he heard one final thing, another roar from Kyuubi. He opened his eyes, unplugged his nose, his body regained its feeling. He didn't see Kyuubi, he was looking in the wrong place. The smell went away. Naruto, I'm over here. Naruto's head snapped downward. He expected to. Well, he really didn't know what to expect. He was going for a chibatized form of Kyuubi, but who he saw was very much out of the ordinary. He saw Kyuubi, but it definitely wasn't what he was expected. He heard his voice and it definitely what Naruto expected to hear. The once deep demonic voice had changed into a reserved young man's voice, masculine yet soft at the same time. This is me in my true form, or at least what used to be my true form. This is how I looked like before I was attacked and transformed into the giant nine-tailed vermin that I am. In front of Naruto stood a tall man. He was muscled and slender. His slicked back deep red hair reached all the way to his mid-back. His crimson eyes matched his red battle suit, which was more like a formal suit. Pinstriped black and red was his battle outfit, and his shoes were pitch black and polished to a point that they actually gleamed with the little light that Kyuubi's cell provided the both of them with. His face was long and slightly animalistic, and his expression gave him an air of intelligence, much like that of a fox's. His face was adorned with 6 whisker marks, 3 on each side. To Naruto's disbelief, this was Kyuubi. He stepped back only to hit the cold bars of Kyuubi's cell. What was this all about? He didn't understand any of it. Why was Kyuubi in this form? What was the truth behind Konoha's attack on him? Now was the time to ask questions. Kyuubi, what is this? Why do you look like this? This is what I looked like before that old fool turned me into the nine-tailed fox. I can only change into this form in here because, as you know, the laws of reality don't apply, and I can do anything with your permission, of course. Naruto made a motion to speak, but Kyuubi cut him off before he could speak. Before we speak, Naruto, if you would be so kind as to give us a better place to speak in. Excuse me, Naruto answered, confused. Kyuubi sighed and shook his head. Naruto wasn't getting what he meant. I mean that I want you to change the inside of this cell and make it better. Naruto's expression changed. He seemed to be getting the fox's request. Use your imagination. Naruto closed his eyes. He imagined what Kyuubi would like the inside of his cell to be like. He imagined a room lit by candles and a fireplace, warm and comfortable. 2 big and soft old-fashioned chairs materialized in the dark cell, and the cell itself began to match Naruto's mental image. A large wooden table with 2 chairs on either end in the middle of a dim room. In the far corner, a mini bar formed itself, already filled with the normal necessities. A piano formed on the opposite end of the bar, and a king-sized bed made its way into the room near the north corner of the huge room. Naruto opened his eyes. The mental image in his mind sprang to life in front of him. Kyuubi's cell was now a dim, laid-back loft. How's this? Perfect. Now we can talk. Take a seat. Both of them took their seats on the opposite end of the table. Naruto was on the right, Kyuubi on the left. The large crystal chandelier on the ceiling was in middle. Naruto placed his elbows to his face and sat in a very Sasuke-style position. Kyuubi merely sat with his hands on the armrest of the chair and his legs crossed. They stared at each other. Now what was this about Konoha attacking you now? And who was this old fool? Kyuubi brought his lips into a taint narrow-lipped smile. Tell me the whole story. You know, Naruto, the connections between humans and things like me have always been hazy. For decades humans have tried to defy us and our demands. We've constantly fought for dominance over the land. Unfortunately, humans have found a way to defeat us. What exactly are you, Kyuubi? Naruto said with a frown. Kyuubi sighed and motioned his hand towards the bar. Naruto looked in the direction and noticed that a bottle of sake was pouring itself into two saucers, just floating in midair. Kyuubi made another motion and the two saucers along with the bottle of sake floated over toward Naruto and Kyuubi. The bottle settled in the middle of the table under the chandelier. Sake. Naruto scratched his chin and looked up. Well, I'm too young to drink alcohol. Kyuubi brought up a finger. Not in here, you're not. In here the inescapable touch of reality does not apply, remember. In your mind you can get drunk and when you go back to the outside you won't feel a thing. Naruto smiled and took a hand to the saucer. Well then, if you put it that way, cheers. Naruto took a sip of sake. He almost gagged at its strong taste. It was bitter and gave him a slight burning sensation in the back of his throat. He clenched his eyes from the unique taste of the alcohol and held it in his throat before finally swallowing it. Kyuubi laughed at Naruto's reaction to the burning liquid. Oh my god. This is what sake tastes like. Adults must be crazy. Kyuubi shook his head and took a long drag of his sake. On the contrary, Naruto-kun, this sake only tastes like what you imagined it to be, bitter, burning, repulsive, and strong. Because I know what sake tastes like, I can mimic the taste by myself. Oh, lucky you. Naruto said sarcastically. No, I'm not really that lucky. I would not be here if I were. Now to address your question on what it was that I am. Have you ever heard of the term evolution, Naruto? Naruto nodded. Yeah, I read about it. The theory of development from earlier forms. All species develop from earlier forms of life by the theoretical process. Well, according to what I read, this theory states that natural variation in the genetic material of a population favors reproduction by some individuals more than others, so that over the generations all members of the population come to possess the favorable traits. But what does that have to do with anything? It has to with everything. Because evolution was the process that started this struggle between you humans and things like us. What exactly are you though? Naruto asked, putting extra emphasis on the what. Kyuubi took another long drag of sake and motioned for the bottle to give him a refill. He looked at Naruto, who had not touched his saucer after that first sip. What's wrong, Naruto? Aren't you going to drink your sake? Naruto shook his head quickly and pushed the deep white plate away from him. He edged his head to the side. I'd rather not. Sake's not my thing. Naruto said as he nudged the saucer all the way to Kyuubi's side of the table. You can have my round if you want. Kyuubi chuckled. Anyway, to your question on what it is that I am, well, how can I put it? Technically I'm human, but just less than you. Just what is that supposed to mean? I told you that evolution started this bout between humans and us. Well, you humans are us, except you have just evolved from us. Long ago, before humans were the way they were, you were exactly like us, powerful, animalistic, feral and impulsive. We were the first species of what you have become. We looked virtually the same as you do, despite some of our more primal features such as my whisker marks, fangs, claws and slit pupils and claws. Kyuubi tapped the polished wood of the table on with one of his claws. There were some differences between us that make us different from you. They were internal differences that can't be seen, only some of them were external. Certain changes in our genetic makeup began to change. Our fangs and claws died down over the many decades, our pupils lost its animal feature. As the years passed by, our bodies favored certain genetic material that began to grow, only to become the dominant gene in our body. Those were our brain cells, the neurons and glial cells that help in the process of transferring information from our brains to our bodies. To make it simple, we were basically getting smarter as we evolved. Most of us lost our immortality. The human brain began to realize its potential, and immortality was getting in the way of it doing that. That was not the only drawback to this evolution, our chakra system. We have immense amounts of chakra, but for some odd reason, as our brains grew, our chakra coils became weaker. It's the reason normal humans don't have as much chakra as me. So as you got smarter, you got weaker. Damn that S for you. So wait, here's the thing I don't understand. If you became so weak, how is that you're so strong, Kyuubi? Ah, I was getting to that. I said that some of us lost our immortality, but not all of us. Example. Me. I, along with 8 others, have retained our immortality and did not evolve with the rest of the human race. I'm actually glad that I didn't evolve though, tch losing this type of power would be a curse. So why is it that you seem so smart, Kyuubi? If you didn't evolve, then how are you this smart? Because of you. While inside of you I placed my seal on you and it locked away part of your mind, body and chakra. When the seal was released, your chakra began to come back to you, your body became stronger and your brain's cells rapidly developed, but not on a grand scale such as evolution. When that happened, I got all of that too because of my link with you, but because I don't have a body I can't develop one, so all I got was the chakra, not a lot but just enough to pump up my mind to the point of intelligence that is on par with you higher humans. Naruto stared at Kyuubi, eyebrow raised. Oh, okay, I get it, you're smart. Any more questions, Naruto-kun? No, I think Ojiazin can answer the rest of those questions. It was nice speaking with you then. Naruto nodded and closed his eyes. Kyuubi, try not to be so lonely in here. I'll give you the power to do what you want in this cell, so have fun. Naruto closed his eyes. Outside world. Naruto opened his eyes. He saw nothing but forest. He stretched from the stiffness in his legs and back. His next destination was the Hokage Tower. He had to have a little chat with Ojiazin about a certain nine-tailed vermin. Her arms still hurt from the pain of the seal placed on her. If she didn't move, then she wouldn't feel the pain. It was around noon when she figured this out. Lerxine sat directly parallel to Naruto's bed. Her arms were still in their restricted position, but the pain had gone away. Only when she didn't move was when the pain subsided. Her face was laced with a thin layer of sweat form thrashing around inside the cramped room. Her hair, horrible, was strewn about over her face and barely covered her eyes. The sun shone in through the window, shining directly on her, as if it wanted to single her out. Why did this happen to me? Why is it that I am the one to get captured? She sighed in exasperation. I'll try one more time, and if I can't break the seal, then I guess that I'm going to have to just give up. It didn't even matter anymore though. If Zexin-sama finds out that I'm in this position, he won't be pleased with me. After a pause, she directed all of her energy to her arms. She felt a hand touched her shoulder and she jumped back with a squeak. Pain shot through her body as she moved. Hey, calm down, it's me. A very familiar masculine voice said in a suppressed whisper. The hand kept a firm grip on her shoulder. The ring on its finger confirmed who he was. It was adorned with a sparkling red ruby which had a solid square cut. The surface of the gem was engraved with a black phoenix. She turned around, to face her brother. But he quickly turned her back around, keeping his firm grip on her shoulders. She didn't know what it was that he was doing, but she didn't care. Lark, is that you? She asked in a scared tone. He replied, yeah, good. I thought you were Zexin-sama. She broke out of his grip and embraced him with a scared hug. He could hear her nearly silent sniffles as she hugged him. Lark, I thought that wasn't going to see you again. How did you get Zexin to let come and get me? Her brother scratched his head with a goofy grin on his face. Well, I didn't necessarily get his permission to come here, I kind of snuck out. He chuckled. Hey, who put this seal on you? Lerxine scowled. It was the Namikaze. She said underneath her breath. Not hearing her, Lark leaned in further to her face. What was that? He said with amused anxiety. A vein pooped on Lerxine's forehead. She grumbled again. She looked at her brother before saying, I said it was the Namikaze. In one large breath, Lark instantly keeled over in laughter. This went on for about 20 seconds before Lerxine hit her brother on the head, promptly silencing him. So what, the Namikaze beat me? He used his Kekkei Genkai though. It had these weird powers. On second I'm pile driving him into the ground and then the next he throwing rocks at me without using any jutsu. Lark's face became serious. He sat in front of his sister, face to face. I'm guessing that the Namikaze who put that seal on you as well. Lerxine's eyes widened as she looked up and down at her voluntarily movable body. She hadn't even noticed that the seal had been removed. He must have done it when he first got here, and how she didn't notice it before was simply astounding. Yeah, he was the one who put it on me. I don't know what he would have done to me if hadn't decided to leave. Lerxine practically read her brother's mind. He was just about to ask her that same question. Lerxine, I don't have much time. I came here to give you this warning. Don't return to the organization. He pretty much thinks that you are dead. During the last member assembly, Zexin left an order for no one to come looking for you. Lerxine paid close attention to her brother's words. He was going to leave you to die, and if you came back he would kill you for your failure. So where am I supposed to go then? Anywhere you want. Zexin thinks that you're dead. But to make you feel better, I have a place for you to go, just west of Mizu no Kuni, a small town in Nami no Kuni. Go there. Ask for Tazuna the bridge builder. He was a friend of our mother, you know, before she died. The tall boy of 18 years wore an impassive expression on his face. What about the Namikaze? Lerxine stood and walked over to the open window by Naruto's bed. Exhausted and sore, she rested her upper body on the sill. What are we going to do about him? No, it is what I'm going to do about him. Lark said. He stood behind her, resting his arm on her shoulder. She squirmed from the pressure on her tender shoulders and shuffled until he moved his arm from around her neck. Don't follow the Namikaze anymore. He's the organization's problem now, and you need not be involved in this matter anymore. I'm giving you a chance to live a normal life, so take it, okay? There was a long pause before Lerxine finally nodded and looked back at her brother. He spoke up first. You have to leave now. I can get you to the border of Hai no Kuni, but you'll have to fend for yourself from then on. He looked past her face, his gaze directed into the distance that was Konoha. Let's go. Lerxine nodded. Lark wrapped his arm around his sister's waist and they both disappeared in a flurry of fire. Border. A plume of fire erupted from the ground, revealing Lark and Lerxine standing at the border of Fire Country, a couple miles away from the main gate of Konoha. The same way Lerxine had made her way in. Am I ever going to see you again? Lark nodded. I'll come to visit you soon, so don't worry. He placed his hand on her head and ruffled the blonde hair that matched his own. He saw that a tear dropped down Lerxine's face and slid down, threatening to drip of her chin. See you soon, he said as he hugged his sister one last time before disappearing from in front of her. Slowly she began to walk down the long dusty road, leading to the village hidden in the mist. She knew that her brother told her to, but she couldn't give up. To her this was all the Namikaze's doing and she wanted her revenge. The instant she recovered in Nami, she would be back here to hunt Naruto down. Naruto walked through the halls leading to the Hokage's office. Naruto saw the door leading to his grandfather. With a thrust of fury, Naruto swung the door open, causing it to slam against the wall, bringing with it loud boom. Those inside the office all turned around to see an enraged Naruto. He walked in slowly, eyes locked on the shock Sandaime Hokage. He was first to speak. Naruto-kun, what is the meaning of this? Naruto didn't say a word, he just continued to look at the old man. Only after a few seconds did Naruto notice the two other in the room with. Both of them stared at him with the look that the rest of the villagers gave him. A man and a woman, both of them old, looked to be around 60 plus. These two, along with the Hokage, were the leaders of the village council. The man had gray hair, and glasses. He wore long white and black robes that draped down to his feet. His black sandals barely covered the unpleasant appendages he called feet. He wore a constant scowl on his face and looked as if he was mad at something. Apparently he was mad all the time. For the few times Naruto had actually seen this man, he always looked like this. His name was Mitokata Homura. The woman directly parallel to him was dressed in pretty much the same attire. Except for the fact that her robes covered her feet, the wrinkles on her face matched those of her male co-council head. The look on her face, however, was different from hers. She didn't look mad or happy, her facial expression was completely impassive. Her name was Kaharu, the slightly less important leader when put into comparison with the Hokage and Mitokata. Sarutobi, I do hope that you have a reasonable explanation for this boy's intrusion. Mitokata said with a gruff and aged voice. Both him and Kaharu turned around and faced Naruto. Naruto kept his eyes on Sarutobi, who he could see in between them. Naruto, answer my question, why are you here? I have business with the council right now, whatever you need will have to wait. Naruto stood up straight. I'll tell you why I'm here. He spat while extending his finger directly at Sarutobi. I'm here for answers, about Uzumaki. Naruto, do you have a reason to be here? If you don't, I suggest that you leave. As of now you are interrupting council affairs, and if you do not leave then you will forced to leave. He ignored the old man's warning and growled under his breath. He approached Sarutobi's desk and slammed his hands on the polished wood, scattering the already messy pile of papers that decorated its surface. Ojiazan, why hell didn't you tell me? Sarutobi's eyes narrowed. He brought his hands up to chin and leaned in closer to Naruto's own face. Why didn't I know this before? Naruto thought. Naruto-kun, what didn't I tell you about? Uzumaki-san, please leave now. Mitokata spat out. Naruto spun around and faced the old man. I won't leave, before I get answers, how about you tell me? You probably know of this too, both of you old geezers probably know this. Both council leaders gasped at Naruto's insult. Their eyes were practically popping out of their heads. Kaharu's impassive expression changed into one of anger. Excuse me, brat, your insolence will not go on unheard. Trust me, the council will have you jailed for your disrespect. The old woman eyed Naruto with hate in her eyes. Children like you should not act so belligerent, especially one with your situation. My situation, Naruto yelled. Now she crossed the line. He knew exactly what she meant by situation. Oh, that situation. Naruto don't, Sarutobi said, which caused both council heads to eye him with suspicion. Don't what, Sarutobi? Mitokata said. Hear what he has to say. Naruto's eyes were set ablaze. Oh, you mean that little situation, the one with 9 tails, am I right? Mitokata and Kaharu both took a step back. Sarutobi sighed in exasperation and slapped his forehead. How do you know of that demon? Naruto chuckled in a creepy way that seemed slightly crazed. He sat on the polished cherry wood desk. It's actually funny. I thought that I was that demon, you know, that demon that you attacked years ago. Naruto, I said don't say word, that's enough. Sarutobi said, causing Naruto to turn his enraged gaze onto him. He looked at the blonde boy with a disarming smile in an attempt to calm him down. It worked, for Naruto's furrowed and angled eyebrows settled down into their straight and calm position. Good. I'm going to have to ask you to leave. We'll talk about this later, Naruto-kun. He looked at his surrogate grandson with eyes fueled by compassion. The same disarming smile returned to his face when he saw Naruto nod. He was a very stubborn person, but when it came to Sarutobi, Naruto would always listen. Fine, Naruto said with a scowl. He jammed his hands into the pockets of his black jacket and walked out, but not before giving the council heads an icy glare. Once he was out of hearing distance, the doors were closed and both of the old geezers turned on Sarutobi. Hokage, I think that we need to have a talk, with all of us, I mean me, Kaharu and the rest of the council. With that, both of them walked out, in sync, like freaking twins. It was weird. Sarutobi rubbed his temples. I'm getting way too old for this crap, he said. He pressed the button activating the intercom system. Kaori-chan. There was a long pause, there seemed to be a lot of those lately. He heard a female reply back to him. Yes, Hokage-sama. Get me Hatake Kakashi, and some aspirin, I've got a monster headache. Another long pause. Right away, Hokage-sama. Thank you. He let go of the button. Way too old indeed. A knock on the door interrupted the silence of the office. Come in, Sarutobi said. Whoever was at the door opened it slowly, making an annoying screech in the process. When he saw who it was, he sat up from his slouched position. Ah, Hataki-san, you caught me by surprise. I expected you to just poof in here like you always do. I figured that I should get some exercise every once in a while. The Cyclopean Junin said with a one-eyed smile. Sarutobi rested his head on his hands, a signal that matters were now serious. Kakashi responded horribly to the signal, he just kept smiling. He figured it out though. Well, since you came so quickly, I am guessing that you know why you're here. Kakashi stood up straight and nodded. You have a mission for me. Sarutobi closed his eyes before shaking his head. No, I have a mission for you and your team. I'm called you here to introduce you to your client. He pressed the intercom button again. Kaori-chan, send him upstairs now. Yes, Hokage-sama. After about 1 minute, a gruff-looking man walked through the door. His gaze was lazy, his clothes wrinkled and dirty. He was holding a bottle in his hand. He held it with a loose grip and it wobbled in between his dry fingers. Hataki-san, this is Tazuna, a master bridge builder for a small port town in Nami no Kuni. It's just west of Kurigakure no Sato. He came here yesterday seeking protection from bandits on his journey back to Nami no Kuni. He was supposed to finish the bridge connecting Hai no Kuni and Nami no Kuni. It's a contribution that both of our economies could benefit from. Kakashi looked at the Tazuna, and sized him up. So you want me and my team to be your bodyguards? His only response was a quick nod. Kakashi then turned back to Sarutobi. Then if that is true, why does my team need to go? Why not just me? Kakashi said, because, Hataki-san, this is only a C-ranked mission, perfect for your team. And with all due respect, they need the experience. Now go. Tazuna here has informed me that he must leave tomorrow morning. You need not bring your team here, just inform them of the mission and leave in the morning. Yes, Hokage-sama, Kakashi said with a bow. He then disappeared in a plume of smoke. Sacred mark of the rising Kekkei Genkai. She departs, he departs, and they appear. Naruto wore a sour expression on his face as he walked down the street leading toward the main gate of Konoha. He figured that he would have at least 5 minutes before he reached his destination. It was more than enough time to have a conversation with Kyuubi. He opened up his mental link with and spoke. Kyuubi, are you there? There was a long pause before he got a response. A familiar vibration in the back of his mind let him know that Kyuubi was there. He was obviously in his fox form. Of course I'm here, Kit. I'll always be here. Well, at least until you die, that is. Kyuubi's voice came off as demonic, the voice that Naruto was still used to. The voice of what he thought was his inner demon. He dived deeper into his mind, putting his body on autopilot. You're in your fox form, don't you think it's better to stay as a human? Naruto said as he mentally ran through his checklist of gear he was supposed to bring with him on his mission to Wave. Nah, it doesn't matter what I look like if no one can see me, and besides, taking a nap as a giant 9-tailed fox actually feels quite refreshing. Kyuubi said. Whatever. Naruto's mental expression suddenly became serious. Hey Kyuubi, let me ask you something. Ask away. Do you Ojiazan sent us on this mission as a way to avoid talking with us? He felt Kyuubi scratch his chin with one of his tails. Maybe, but that's not important. What is important is that girl you were supposed to interrogate. Naruto let out a deep sigh in exasperation. He consciously jammed his hands in his pockets, a habit he could never really stop doing. He figured he picked it up from watching Kakashi do it so many times. Even so, he veered his mind back on the main topic and continued to speak. Yeah, that Lerxine girl, I don't know how she got out of that seal, I constructed it myself. Naruto patted himself on the back for his newfound knowledge of seals. His mind was sharper than ever, but it seemed that hours of staying up and studying the different types and effects of scrolls didn't pay off, for he couldn't keep Lerxine immobilized. You know, the funny thing is, I wonder how she got out without being detected by any ninja patrolling around Konoha. Naruto knew that during all times of the day, Ninja ranging from Mid-Chunin to Anbu would circle the entire perimeter of Konoha. What he couldn't figure out was how is that she wasn't spotted, and as badly damaged as she was, it should have been impossible to even make it out of his front door. She must be more skilled than I gave her credit for. Maybe that battle we had was just to gather information on me. Maybe, but we don't know for sure, so keep your eyes peeled for any signs of Seiki activity. I'll be sure to do that, Naruto said as he cut off his mental link and approached the main gate and his teammates. He walked up to his team. Everyone was present. He saw Sasuke, Sakura, Kakashi, and a worn-out old man. He walked up to the man, and eyed him, inspecting the old man for any reason to not go on this mission. What's your problem, runt? Naruto raised an eyebrow. Ah, you must be Tazuna, Naruto said in a slightly baritone voice. He had only noticed it a couple of days ago, but his voice was starting to get deeper. Puberty was working to his benefit. Yeah, I am, and who the hell are you? The man replied in a gruff tone. Naruto scoffed and walked past him. He reeked of alcohol. There must have been a lot of problems in this guy's life. He even smelled like a drunk. The name's Uzumaki Naruto. He continued to walk past Sasuke and Sakura and proceeded onto Kakashi. Sensei, he said, give me the full details on this mission so that we can get going. Sure, Kakashi said as he patted Naruto on the shoulder, earning him an annoyed glance from the blonde nin. Let me just announce this first. He signaled for everyone to gather around him, all excluding Tazuna. Now let me say this, and I'll only say this once. This is your first mission outside of the village. I hope that you prepared correctly. There should be no room in your pack for unnecessary items, such as any personal items used for recreation. Any miscellaneous items, say tools used for makeup, are also unacceptable. Also, there is no need for overpacking. You shouldn't need that many pairs of clothing. If you fit any of these wrong conditions, I suggest that you go back home and repack. You have 10 minutes. Kakashi locked his eye on Sakura. Only then did she inch away and dash off in the direction of her house. She's so predictable, he said, shaking his head in a disappointed manner. With that, everyone went off to their respective spaces. Sasuke leaned against the gate wall, Tazuna stood where he was, and Kakashi walked over to a small tree, leaned on it and motioned for Naruto to follow him. Both of them stood under the tree's shade, not saying a word, taking a few moments to savor its branches that shielded them from the blistering heat. Kakashi spoke. I know you didn't want to talk about mission specs with me, Naruto-kun, so what's the deal? He spoke in a low, inaudible voice, a voice so low that it was almost silent. If you weren't under that tree, you wouldn't hear a word. You found me out. What I really wanted to do was ask you something, Naruto said in a voice equal to Kakashi's in decibel level. Go ahead. Yesterday, when Ojiazan told about this mission, did he say anything else to you? Kakashi looked up into the sky. Naruto leaned even more onto the tree and folded his arms. Kakashi hesitated for a bit, then shook his head. No, he didn't say anything to me. Why? No reason, I just wanted to know, Naruto said as he walked away toward the main gate. He traded glances with Sasuke before leaning on the opposite side of the wall, parallel to Sasuke. The sun's rays shined on his face, causing him to bring his arm up to shield himself. He could have stayed under the tree, but at that particular moment he didn't feel like being next to Kakashi. He couldn't help but think that the silver-haired Junin had something to hide. So he stood by himself and waited for Sakura to return. Hours later, Team 7 and Tazuna were about 6 miles from where they were supposed to catch a boat and cross into Nami. It was near dusk and a luminous twilight peeped out from over the horizon in the distance. It was nearly 10 o'clock when Kakashi decided to make camp. He inspected the area, a wide open space, in the middle of the forest, trees lining its border. He turned to look at Tazuna and his team. The old man looked worn out, tired. His face was haggard and his eyelids were heavy. It was obvious that the bridge builder didn't have the stamina of a ninja. His team, on the other hand, wasn't doing all that well either, all except for Naruto. He showed no signs of fatigue. The one-eyed Junin heavily sweat dropped from the realization of having two-thirds of a team that didn't have the stamina of a ninja. Okay, he said as he turned to his team. I think we should break for camp soon. We've been walking all day and I know you guys are all tired, so set up and get some rest. He inspected their resting spot. It was perfect spot to break camp in. A wide open space like this would make it hard for any potential threats to sneak up on them. He watched as his team set up their sleeping bags and prepared a fire. Naruto hauled some large rocks over by the flames and set them up one by one in a circle. With their sleeping bags ready and food out, they all sat around the fire. Tazuna helped himself to several cans of beef stew. It was a silent dinner and a fast one too. Soon after their silent dinner, Tazuna and Sakura were both asleep in their respective sleeping bags, worn out from walking since morning. Naruto sat on a fairly large rock, watching Tazuna snore with contempt in his eyes. He knew that the bridge builder was a liar, something that he would have to talk with Kakashi about after the Uchiha went to sleep. The sky was completely black and the only thing allowing them to see was the fire that lit up their little campsite. Sasuke, who had taken to sitting on a tree branch, watched the night sky while switching his attention from the sky to Naruto and Kakashi. He figured that they had to talk to one another at one point and he would be awake to hear that conversation. He knew it was a weak attempt at trying to learn more about Kakashi and Naruto. Yo, Sasuke-kun. Sasuke's turned in Kakashi's direction. He saw both Kakashi and Naruto looking at him. It made him feel a little uneasy, but he brushed it off his conscience. You should get some sleep. We're waking up early tomorrow in order to get into wave earlier. Nah, I'm not that sleepy, he said as he jumped down from the branch. He would have landed square on his feet if it weren't for the intense stares his sensei and teammate were giving him. One of them sent a large wave of killing intent with his stare. He couldn't tell who it was though, for the key had been too much. On second thought, I think I'm going to head off and hit the hay, he said with a nervous chuckle. He went to his already unrolled sleeping bag and crawled in, grumbling about how something wasn't fair. He didn't want to admit it, but he was very tired. Doby was the last word he said before sleep took over and forced his eyes shut, throwing him into deep slumber. Both Kakashi and Naruto looked waited in silence until they heard a light snore come from Sasuke's direction. Good. Now that Princess Uchiha is asleep, we need to talk about some things. Like what? Kakashi replied. Like how Tazuna-san isn't telling us something about this mission. Quote. Ah, you've noticed it too. I thought I was the only one. I'm surprised, Naruto-kun. Thanks, but getting back on topic, he said that he was desperate need of protection and I find it suspicious that we haven't come across a single threat. Not even a bandit. Yeah, I know. I'll address him about it later when the time is right. Naruto shrugged and took to a tree branch. Whatever, sensei. It doesn't really matter to me. I just hope that we come across somebody powerful and soon. Kakashi chuckled at the boy's eagerness to fight. Just get some sleep, Naruto-kun, Kakashi said, but this time Naruto didn't answer back. The next morning, Naruto woke up with a yawn. He saw that their campsite had not been attacked and everyone was okay. He looked down from his perch on the tree branch to see the rest his team and Tazuna already packing up and getting ready to depart. Yo, Naruto-kun, get down from there, we're about to leave. Kakashi called and signaled for him to come over with a wave of his hand. Naruto reluctantly slid out and down from the tree, and walked over to the rest of his team. Why didn't you wake me up earlier? Well, I figured that since you didn't really have to pack anything up, I'd give you an extra 20 minutes to sleep before we left. Naruto just nodded, picked up his pack next to the remains of the previous night's fire and slipped it on. Are we all ready to go? All Kakashi got were a series of yawns, moans and stretches for an answer. That probably meant yes. Ready, Tazuna said in a half-drunken haze. Ready, Sasuke replied. I'm ready as long as Sasuke-kun's ready. That earned Sakura an annoyed grumble from her crush. Good to go, Naruto said. Let's get moving, Kakashi said, looking at the sky. Team 7 and Tazuna headed for the main road. They hadn't even walked 2 miles when they walked by two puddles in the middle of the road. The rest of the team labeled it off as nothing, but Kakashi and Naruto knew exactly what those puddles were. A puddle in the middle of the summer and it hadn't rained in weeks. These guys are way out of their league. Kakashi thought to himself. He was sure Naruto was thinking the same thing. He looked up at Naruto who was in the front of the line, leading the pack, and then to Tazuna who was almost directly behind him. His vision turned back to Naruto who now had his hand placed behind, moving his fingers in a fork-like way. Kakashi understood Naruto's subtle movements. They were special hand signs for identifying the number of enemies in the area without being heard. The one Naruto was using translated as 2. SC. How does he know about silent communication? Naruto-kun, you continue to astound me every time I see you. Kakashi responded with his own round of SC. 2 enemies inside of the puddle. I'm aware. Should we act now? No, wait and see what they do before we act. Understood. Naruto continued to walk as if his 5-second conversation with Kakashi had never happened. Meanwhile, 2 sets of eyes peeked at Team 7 through veils of false water. They waited for them to gain a little distance before making their move. Once the distance was set between them, 2 nin slowly dragged themselves out of the puddles. They wore black cloaks and matching gas mask. What were even more noticeable though were the 2 clawed gauntlets they garnered on the opposite arm. They were linked together by interlocking chains. Their hitaates had the symbol for the hidden mist village. The only thing different was that they both had a slash going through the symbol. 2 nuke nin from Kurigakure no Sato, the Oni brothers. One sat on the other's arm as a parrot would a pirate. In deft movement, the one on the other's arm was flung into the air by his brother, heading straight for Kakashi with little to no sound at all. Sakura, Sasuke and Tazuna barely had any time to react before they saw a figure cloaked in black fly towards them and rip the sensei to bloody shreds with deadly spiked chains. Sakura screamed at the sight of the bloody chunks of flesh that was now Kakashi. Sasuke almost gagged but did a solid job at maintaining his cool guy visage. Tazuna would have screamed too if not for the empty beer bottle in his hand. He probably didn't know what was going on. All but Naruto were in panic. He stood there and watched the 2 brothers who had just ripped Kakashi apart. They stood laughing in the middle of the road. 1 down, 4 to go. One of them said and then locked eyes with Naruto. You. One of them said as they both lock onto Naruto. With a burst of speed the both of them ran at Naruto, gauntlets out. They spread out so that the same chain that killed Kakashi would soon taste Naruto's blood. Naruto had at least 5 seconds to react. He took 2 of those seconds to look over at his teammates. Sakura, who had just finished screaming, stood petrified with fear, Tazuna the same. But he could see that Sasuke was no longer next to the 2 of them. Oh, so that's his plan. Not bad, Uchiha. Naruto said as he pointed up in the sky, then quickly flipped over the chain that could have killed him. Both men stopped to see what Naruto was pointing at, only to see a kunai thrown by Sasuke whiz past them and pin their interlock chain onto a tree. What the is this, kid? Do you really think that this would stop us? With a loud hissing sound their chains detached, allowing them to freely go anywhere they pleased. Now you mine, what the? Said Nuke Nin was stopped dead in his sentence when Sasuke appeared out of nowhere, squatting on both their gauntlets. He reared back and landed a solid drop kick to both of the Nuke Nin's faces, sending them both flying toward the ground. We're gonna kill you, kid. They both said in unison. Sasuke replied with a typical cool guy smirk. Naruto. He thought as he slid into his taijutsu stance. It was not only until the 2 cloaked men were about 20 yards away did they hear a voice from the ground. Daiden. Doryuden. Earth style. Earth dragon projectile. What the hell is that? Sasuke said as he took a step back. A swirl of mud spawned itself in front of him, taking the form of a dragon's head. It opened its mouth and spit out tons of hardened mud shots towards the 2 Nuke Nin. They reacted by swiftly dodging, ducking and slashing at the hardened lumps of earth. Sasuke looked to his far right to see Naruto standing while maintaining a ram seal. The blonde boy's body tensed even more as he applied more chakra to his jutsu. How does he know such a high-level jutsu? Thought Sasuke as he looked on in disbelief at his comrade's astounding chakra capacity. Naruto made a loud grunt as he increased the power on his earth jutsu. The dragon's eyes flashed an iridescent yellow right before it increased its rate of fire and in turn spewing out double the amount of mud than it started with. "Ah, what the?" said one of the gauntlet-wielding nuke nins before him, and his partner were thoroughly buried inside of a pile of solid earth. "Whoa," was all that Tazuna said. Sakura seconded his notion by leaving her mouth open to droop down in awe. Suddenly she felt something, a sense of admiration for Naruto, sort of how she admired Sasuke. The sight of him taking down two dangerous ninja was amazing. "You did it!" Sakura suddenly yelled out to Naruto. He looked back at her with a freaked-out expression. Her wide smile died out, perhaps stating the obvious didn't make her seem all that bright. But she quickly forgot about her amazement at Naruto and went to her crush's aid. "Are you hurt, Sasuke-kun?" she said as she ran up to him and cradled his arm, holding on to it like it was her heart. He quickly shoved her away with a grunt. "What are we going to do now that Kakashi's gone?" he said, looking toward Naruto, who replied, "I don't. Why don't you ask him yourself?" "What?" Tazuna, Sasuke and Sakura said in unison. Naruto jerked his thumb at a cluster of trees and in a few seconds, to their surprise, Kakashi casually walked out, horn in hand. Everyone but Naruto face faulted at his sudden entrance. "Yo, what say we get those two out of that mud pile and figure out what's really going on?" The two Oni brothers sat unconscious in a pile of mud that stopped at their heads. Kakashi put some smelling salts near their noses. They wrenched back and yelled out in disgust. "Guza and Maizu, the two Oni brothers, care to explain what you're doing here?" Both brothers looked up to see who was speaking. They found themselves staring at the eye of the copycat ninja, Hitaki Kakashi. "How the hell are you still alive? I thought we killed you," said Guza. He was the one on the right. Kakashi chuckled in a way that was slightly dark. Guza struggled to release himself from the mud but stopped when he realized that his actions were null and void. "I'll ask again, what were you doing here?" "We're not telling you a damn thing." This time Maizu answered. He was the one on the left. The gas mask he wore gave his voice an influence of static and the nuke ninja's word came out harsh and disrupted. Naruto watched Kakashi's interrogation from atop a tree branch. A sigh of boredom escaped his lips as he brought attention from his sensei to the sky. He closed his eyes but he could still hear the faint sound of the two missing ninjas' voices. Sasuke sat a branch on the opposite side of the tree. Seeing as how the tree was fairly small, Naruto and Sasuke weren't really that far away from each other, just close enough to hear each other's words. "Hey, Dobi, what do you want, Tem?" Naruto said, opening one eye. "I was trying to sleep." He heard Sasuke suppress a growl. Then there was a pause. "That jutsu that you did to catch the Oni brothers, where did you learn that technique?" Sasuke said while arrogantly ing his head to the side. "Well, wouldn't you like to know?" "Yeah, I would." Naruto thought for a moment. He didn't have anything to do while Kakashi got the information out of those two Oni brothers and needed something to do to pass the time away. Usually talking with Sasuke wasn't something he would normally do out of interest, but every now and then it was fun to see a stuck-up Uchiha not get what he wanted. "Okay then, I'll tell you. I learned it from a scroll," he said with a grin. "Teach it to me." Number. Naruto chuckled from his prone position on the branches when he heard Sasuke suppress another growl. "I'll tell you what, I won't teach it to you, but I will tell you where to get the scroll form." "Tell me already, you Dobi." Pause. "The Konoha Jutsu Archives," Naruto said blatantly. There was no response from Sasuke, much to the delight of Naruto. "I thought so," he said. Sakura sat next to Tazuna, simply admiring the spectacle with raven hair. A sigh comparable to Naruto's passed through with her breath. "Sasuke looks so cool right now. Even Naruto looks kind of nice too." What could they be talking about on that tree? I want to be over there, and how come I always get stuck next to this creepy old drunk? She thought to herself while eyeing Tazuna. There was a sudden yell from both Oni brothers over by Kakashi. All heads turned in the direction their sudden outbreak. Sakura nearly jumped into Tazuna's arms from the noise. They all came to see the Oni brothers passed out and buried to their heads next to a tree. Kakashi adjusted the part of his headband that covered his left eye. Are quite done, sensei? Naruto asked, walking up to the one-eyed Junin. He eyed the heavy gauntlets the Oni brothers still wielded on their opposite arms. He eyed them with a keen eye. This could come in handy, he said as he unlatched and slipped both gauntlets of the brothers' limp arms. He took a scroll out of his pack and laid the two gauntlets on the open paper, and with a few quick hand seals the two metal accessories disappeared in a small cloud of smoke. Now that Naruto's finished, shall we be on our way? Kakashi said with a patented eye smile. The sound of bug and little animals filled that part of the forest. Greenery was everywhere. The air was thick and humid, wet, hot and hard to breathe in. Lerxine walked on a nature-made road with stiff limbs. Her muscles ached and her lungs burned. They burned more and more with every agonizing output of carbon dioxide that was released from her lungs. Damn, was all she said as she said, swatting away small branches and leaves from her face. Damn, I'm so hungry. Her stomach attested to that fact with a loud growl. She punched it to get to quiet down. After a few minutes of walking she came upon a large clearing in the middle of the forest. The smell of food fluttered in the air. It danced in front of her nose, tantalizing her to come closer. Without hesitation she followed and came across a series of tents. Next to those tents were racks of equipment. Swords, daggers, and small shields were lined up along the racks. What is this? Tents and weapons. These guys might be bandits. Lerxine inspected through the camouflage of trees, waiting to see if anyone would come out. She heard voices coming from the tents, so she knew that there were people in there. Her stomach gave another loud growl. She looked down with a bright blush on her face. What she was blushing from is a mystery. Screw this. She walked past the tree into the clearing, but as she got closer to the tent another smell entered her nose. It was ripe, distinct, dirty. It danced around the perimeter of the tents. It wasn't a good sign at all. If this certain smell wafted around a gang of bandits' campsite, then there must have been women around. For the sight smelled of. A smell that Lerxine never thought she would get used to. Whenever her brother and his lover, who was part of the Seiki herself, would get together she would always smell it. She definitely recognized it. She didn't like it, but she recognized it. She took a step back away from the tents, trying to get away from the smell when she bumped into something hard. Well, what do we have here? Said the gruff voice of a man from behind her, and by the feeling on her back that man was built like a brick house. It not what you think. Turning around slowly she saw a tall man, around 6'7", towering over her. He wore no shirt, all that he had on was a pair of blue pants on. Hey little girl, are ya lost? Come with me in my tent, I've got a map, or maybe you can stay with us and you will help get where you're going. She took a step back, fully aware of what would happen if she even took a step in that tent. She edged her head. No. What? Come on, me and my friends can help you. He signaled toward the other tents and out came 4 other bandits, all sweaty and smiling. Hey looky here guys, we got ourselves a fresh one. The supposed leader yelled at the other guys. The rest of his gang all declined. No way, I'm good with this one, for now. One of them said, earning him a laugh from the others. They all agreed with him as they went back into their own respective tents. See, my friends are all friendly, you've got nothing to fear. I said no, Lerxine said in reply, but your clothes are all ripped up. I can get you a new pair. What do you say, little lady? He asked, putting up his most disarming smile. She played along and put up her most innocent lost girl face ever. Really? You'll help me? Can I know your name? Sure, he said with a perverted blush on his face. I'm Ganryu Shisen, so how about we go in my tent so I can get you some new clothes? Well, Ganryu-san. You can go to hell. She delivered a solid punch to his face, causing him to stumble backward into the many racks of weapons. The clatter of steel on steel attracted the attention of Ganryu's comrades. She stepped closer to the prone bandit leader. You know it's people like Yun who give men a bad name. What type of sick twisted man are you? Did you think I was stupid or something? As if I'd just go into your tent because you asked. She picked him up by the neck in a sheer display of strength. What the hell are you? He spat out through a partially crushed windpipe. The rest of the bandits just stood there paralyzed with shock, a girl lifting up their leader with nothing but an arm. A few words could be heard through his countless gags and gasps for air. W. Are you doin'? Don't just stand. Do. So. Thing. They got the message and rushed back into the tents to get their weapons. They all came out with various daggers and swords. Let him go, you little bitch. That struck a nerve. Bitch. She hated to be called a bitch. These men would have to pay. Her gaze shifted past the man in her arm and locked on to the one who called her that certain word. What did you say? You heard me, I said bye. Before he could finish his sentence, a Sinbon needle was plunged deep into throat, a tiny deformity on the back of his neck marked where the needle could have pierced through. Her hand stuck out in a post-throw position. He fell to the ground gurgling from the blood pouring down his throat, dead. Anyone else? Fear gripped their ugly faces. She had just begun to notice her arms start to strain from holding up her burden. She eyed the Ganryu who was still in her clutches. Man, you're bothering me, go away. She spun and with a heavy grunt threw him head first into a tree, causing him to instantly die from the impact. The blood from his head traveled in a quick little stream all the way to the back of her shoes. She took a step closer. 3 men took 2 steps back. She smiled. It was time for the savage nymph to come out and play a little bit. That's the reason why. Yes, that's the truth. Tazuna said shamefully. It had been at least an hour since they captured the Oni brothers, who were probably still in that hardened pile of mud. Apparently Tazuna had lied about the gravity of his situation. He was supposed to get to Nami no Kuni, but he said he needed protection from bandits. Something like that was a standard and basic C-rank mission. It wasn't anything that was too important. But in reality Tazuna withheld information from them. He said nothing about the bounty he had on his head, that made him a prime target for shinobi and nuke nin. Protection from these kinds of threats would always came out as a B-rank mission. So, because you didn't have the money, you didn't tell us the full story because you knew that the price would come to be too much for you. So, I guess you guys should turn back then, seeing as how this mission was a false. The now sober man said. Kakashi shook his head. No, we've already accepted this mission, and as Konoha nin we will finish what we started. But it's good that you told us this information, Tazuna-san. Thank you, Hataki-san. Tazuna said. The one-eyed Junin waved a finger in the air. No, it's Kakashi. Ah, then thank you, Kakashi. Team 7 and Tazuna were still on the same path they were taking before they were attacked by the Oni. They copied the same formation they used before. Naruto was in front, then Sasuke and Sakura. Kakashi was behind Tazuna this time though. The air was crisp and became arid from the summer heat. Naruto took in a few nosefuls of it and gagged. He hated fresh air. I wonder what they're talking about. He pumped a little chakra into his ears, and almost instantly everything got louder. He centered his attention on Tazuna and Kakashi's conversation. At first he hears small transmissions of idle chit-chat between the men, but then something caught his attention. What he heard was this. Zabuza Momochi, he's the leader of those 2 assassins earlier. How do you know that, Kakashi? Taswana asked. I'm a former Anbu, there isn't a lot that I don't know, Tazuna-san. Really, Anbu? Now I feel really safe. Get on with it. Naruto thought to himself, and immediately, as if on cue, Kakashi continued. Anyway, like I said, Zabuza Momochi, an ex-ninja of Kiri. He defected about 5 years ago, and ever since his name has been spreading like wildfire. I can't imagine what he would want to do with you. Is there anything crime that you've committed? No, but it might be for the bounty on my head. Tell me more. Naruto decided to cut off the chakra flow from there, he would find this out later. They continued to walk in silence, except for the constant pleas from Sakura trying to get Sasuke to notice her. It was about noon and they didn't have that much of a distance to walk before they could be done with this mission. He closed his eyes and put his hands behind his head. So bored, what to do? He stopped his thinking when something caught his eye. Something glimmering headed toward them. Everyone get down, Kakashi ordered. Naruto immediately followed orders and ducked, and it was not a second too late. As soon as he moved, a giant spinning Zanbanto came sailing over his head, barely missing his head and splitting a few hairs. Naruto could feel the wind that came with the deadly metal. The sword lodged itself into a tree, and standing on its long hilt was a pale man. He stood with his back toward them, and wore his slashed kiri headband to the side. His attire consisted on a pair of black and white camo arm warmers, his leg warmers matched. His torso was bare except for the crossed strap that served as a holster for his sword. His stark laugh weaved its way towards them. Naruto turned to see Tazuna and his teammates stricken with fear. Kakashi's expression, however, was suppressed. He showed no sign of fear or even anger, he just looked calm and collected. He spoke out. Momochi Zabuza, ex-nin of Kurigakure no Sato, after your failed assassination attempt on the Mizukage, you fled with your two lackeys, the Oni brothers. I figured that you would show up here sooner or later, considering how they were defeated so soundly. He turned and sat on the hilt of his sword, carefully eyeing Team 7. Is that so? Well, I didn't expect to see you here, Kakashi, the copy ninja. It doesn't matter though, I came here for one thing and for one thing only, and that is for the old bridge builder. Copy ninja? What's he talking about? Sakura asked with fear in her voice. You'll find out later, he said. Now get behind me. They did as they were told, including Naruto, and waited for Zabuza to attack. The only sound that could be heard was the sound of the resident animals and the sound of thinking, dead silence. The air gained a sudden chill to it. Soon Naruto was able to see his own breath. What is this? He thought to himself. Zabuza stood up, tall and lanky, swaying a little bit from side to side. He placed his hand on the hilt of his massive weapon and disappeared. This will all be over quickly, Tazuna. Naruto, Sasuke and Sakura circled Tazuna in response to Zabuza's comment. His voice came seemingly from everywhere at once. It was as if he projected himself into the deep mist. The sun's rays were blotted out by the sun, a few strands of its light pierced through the dense fog. His voice came again, but it rushed past their faces as if it came with the wind. Why so silent, Kakashi? Are you thinking? What is this jutsu? Zabuza's planning something big. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura, you'd better be on your guard. Kakashi thought to himself. He's not the one doing this, Kakashi, there's someone else here. Naruto's voice came from afar and was seemingly gaining distance. I'll try to find whoever it is that's doing this. Kakashi nodded in Naruto's direction. Even though he couldn't see him, he knew where he was going. He heard the swift sound of Naruto jumping off into the distance in search of Zabuza's associate. Be safe, Naruto-kun, now to the task at hand. Kakashi had to redirect his thoughts and focus on the battle at hand. He felt Zabuza's presence right in front of him. He whipped a kunai just in time to block the huge blade of the nuke nin's blade. Zabuza became visible in front of him. The clang of metal sounded off in the distance. Sakura, Sasuke, Kakashi said, not taking his eyes off of Zabuza, I'll buy you some time. In the meantime, head towards our destination and make sure Tazuna is alive. He heard a muffled voice that sounded like Sasuke's. How? We can't even see out here. Kakashi didn't respond. Kakashi, you shouldn't take your mind of the battle. It could prove to be. Zabuza's presence disappeared and reappeared behind Kakashi. Fatal, Zabuza said. Pain shot through Kakashi's side. The pain cut through his ribs and splattered his blood along the dusty, mist-shrouded road. He was sent flying and crashed onto the ground. Naruto stood alone in the weird mist that somehow covered the huge air he was in. It was illogical to in his mind, he had run at least a mile away from Kakashi and the others. There was a faint chakra signature that caught his attention, and upon following it, it led him here to this spot. The weird thing was that the jutsu that was being used to cloak Zabuza's movements had such a far range, it couldn't have spanned out this far. It was illogical. He barely followed the faint signature, wondering about the blankness. This is strange, this isn't a normal jutsu. There aren't any cloaking techniques from Kiri this big, so that must mean that whoever is doing this isn't resident to Kurigakure no Sato. He cleared his mind and sent his chakra out in pulse-like waves. It was a way of finding foes that were invisible to his eye. He called it chakra sonar. By sending his chakra out in a pulse, he could feel for any other chakra signatures in the area. If there was another chakra signature than his own, his chakra would spike, and when it came in contact with another person's chakra, he could in turn track down the chakra irregularity in order to find who he was looking for. On with the story. Naruto sent out a series of chakra waves. In a few seconds he felt something, but it was faint. Whoever this person was obviously was an expert at chakra control. Whoever this guy is, he must be good at hiding his chakra signature. His head popped to the left when he felt a chakra spike a couple meters from him. But not good enough. He took out 3 kunai and whipped them into a nearby bush. He smiled when he heard a man yell, "There's no use hiding, I know you're there." The man responded, oh yeah, well. A gust of wind rushed past Naruto's face. "How about this?" The voice of a man came directly behind him, and to avoid danger he jumped forward and out of the way. He stumbled up and turned to see a man. He had long brown hair, a fair build and brown eyes. A disarming smile was plastered on his face as he stood there waving. He wore an outfit that Naruto knew all too well, a long black trench coat that was zipped down and left open, revealing a bare chest. It was a fairly muscular one at that. His smile baring his white teeth. Naruto's eyes went wide with something that resembled fear, but if he was correct, it was more like anxiety. "Seiki," Naruto said under his breath. "That's right, Namikaze," said the brown-haired organization member. How he heard Naruto would remain a mystery. "You know what I'm here for, so just come quietly." Naruto smirked. "I could have sworn Lerxine said the same thing and she's dead now." Naruto didn't want to give any information about her just yet. He would find her and interrogate her if it killed him. The man's eyes also went wide. You were the one who killed Lerxine." He bent over laughing and held his stomach, serving only to irritate Naruto. Naruto yelled and dashed toward the man, giving him a solid punch to the face. The force of the blow sent him flying into a tree, which he got from and dusted himself off. "Nice punch," he said, holding his chin. "I guess that means that you won't be coming without a fight then." "Fine. Then before I defeat you, I'll tell you my name. It's Marluxia, remember it." With a flash of speed disappeared right before Naruto's eyes. "Alright, fine," Naruto said with the same confident smile on his face. "Then you remember this, my name is Namikaze Naruto." Naruto said before he disappeared as well. Kakashi panted heavily. All he could do was block and dodge Zabuza's massive swings. He ducked hard and just fast enough to avoid getting his head cleaved off. Trading blows was one thing, but trading blows in that was near to impossible. He heard Zabuza's voice echo in the distance. "What's wrong, Kakashi? Why don't you use that eye of yours?" Kakashi ducked another swipe from Zabuza's blade. "Damn, I can't do anything in this mist, and all the jutsu that I have used to disperse haven't done me any good. I didn't want to use this, but I guess there's no other choice." He placed his hand on his Hita 8, pulling it off of his left eye. "I didn't want to use this, Zabuza, but you forced me to." He opened his eye, revealing red and black pupil with 3 black tomos surrounding it, the Sharingan. "Ah, it seems that you're finally serious." Zabuza came in from the left, but Kakashi stopped him, blocking the sword with the blunt edge of his kunai. He then quickly grabbed onto Zabuza's arm. Now the real battle begins. With his free hand began to make seals with one hand. Doden. Doryu Taiga. Earth Flow River. Kakashi stomped his foot on the ground, and in an instant the ground underneath Zabuza turned into mud and exploded into a flowing river of mud, blasting Zabuza back into the deep mist. Kakashi immediately followed up with another round of hand seals. Doden Kekai. Duro Dumu. Earth Barrier. Earth Dome Prison. Kakashi slammed his hands on the ground, pumping gallons of chakra into the muddy stream. It solidified and swirled around Zabuza, making a solid dome of stone. I'm still not done. This time without the use of hand seals and his hands still in the ground, Kakashi took in a deep breath. Enden. Fireball. He exhaled a huge jet stream of white-hot flames that formed a fireball toward Zabuza's earth prison. He felt the heat of the flames as they exited his mouth, then he slid his headband back over his eye. The torrent of fire closed in on the dome, ensuring Zabuza's doom, or they would have if not for the words that Zabuza uttered. The earth dome began to rumble, small vein-like cracks appeared and little tendrils of water gushed out. Sweden. Suiryuden no Jutsu. Water Dragon Projectile Technique, Zabuza yelled. A dragon made of pure water erupted out of the front of the stone dome and smashed directly through Kakashi's fireball, heading straight for the one-eyed copy Nin. Shit. Kakashi removed his hands from the ground, and jumped out of the way. Zabuza freed himself and the fight would be escalated to higher levels now. A creepy laugh sounded from where Zabuza was. Is that the best you got? In the thick mist all Kakashi could see was a huge sword coming at his face. It cut through the wind and came with Zabuza's killing intent. Kakashi dodged to the side and gave Zabuza a devastating spin kick that went straight through his face. Kakashi's eyes widened when Zabuza's face turned into water. It was a water clone. Kakashi searched for his opponent until he heard a peculiar whisper. He looked down at his feet only to see a foreboding shadow growing bigger at his feet. What the hell? Kakashi looked up to see Zabuza cascading down on him, preparing to hack him in half with his giant Zanbantu. Zabuza's bandaged mouth grinned under its wraps as he made his descent. Die, Kakashi. He split Kakashi down the middle with extreme force, creating a shockwave on impact with the ground. Zabuza's smile disintegrated when he saw Kakashi's body turn to water just as his did. Ah, you mirrored my movements, clever. Zabuza said. A low rumbling came from underneath him. Kakashi's fist burst through the ground, hitting Zabuza square in the face, causing him to lift off the ground, but before he could touch back down, said copy Nin kicked him in torso, sending him flying. He smacked against the hard trunk of a tree, breaking a few ribs in the process, but he quickly got up and slid back into his taijutsu stance. Both Junin panted heavily and were at a brief loss of breath, but soon they charged at each other again, trading quick blows of taijutsu and kenjutsu. Kakashi, those genin of yours won't be safe for long, Zabuza said as he continuously hacked and slashed at Kakashi. He missed all but two. They were minor cut, but they were in all the wrong places. He managed to sever a tendon in Kakashi's left shoulder and give him a fairly sized stomach evisceration. Kakashi on the other hand swiftly dodged while trying to land major blows on Zabuza with the soul kunai in his hand. He stumbled a little from the pain delivered by the wounds, and in that brief moment Zabuza took the opportunity to attack Kakashi's blind spot and catch him off guard. Zabuza reared back. A demonic laughter came from him as he wildly swung his blade on a horizontal axis. This is then end Kakashi. Much to his surprise, Kakashi stopped his blade with his free right hand. He struggled against him, but for some reason he couldn't move his sword. It was as if Kakashi just got some sort of chakra boost. You're right, I did just get a chakra boost, Kakashi said to Zabuza's disbelief. How did you know what I was thinking? He got no response from the now confident sensei. All he got was Kakashi rearing his head back in order to move his headband off of his eye for the second time. The Sharingan, it was the Uchiha clan bloodline limit. Its basic form consisted of red eyes with black pupils that were encircled by tomos that varied from anywhere between 1 and 3, depending on the level of that user. It allowed the use of substantial chakra increase and had extraordinary jutsu copying ability along with supernatural movement prediction. But it was its copying ability that gave it the name Sharingan, the copy wheel eye. You made me use this twice. You're a worthy opponent, but Momochi Zabuza, you must die. And how do suppose you're going to do that? Kakashi chuckled, still holding back Zabuza's Zanbantu. Look at the air, what do you see? Zabuza concentrated and focused on what Kakashi had said. His eyes widened when he realized that the thick mist was no longer in the air, it was completely gone. I see, you get my point. I can use my Sharingan now. Naruto currently found himself on top of a large lake, staring down the carefree Seiki member. They had been fighting for at least 30 minutes, which is actually a long time if you think about it. His plan was working out perfectly. The jutsu Marluxia used was actually flawed. For some strange reason, that weird mist, which he conjured up, had a widespread perimeter, but it had to travel with him. He noticed not too long ago when they were trading blows, he managed to get away and escape the mist, but as soon as Marluxia found him, the mist returned. His plan was not to help himself but to help Kakashi. He knew about Kakashi's Sharingan and he knew that a technique like this would be able to defeat it as well. He planned to move away from Kakashi and the others in hopes that he would have soundly beaten Zabuza by then. But right now Kakashi wasn't his main priority, he had to divert his full attention to fighting Marluxia. In front of Naruto stood Marluxia on the surface of the water, his entire aura had changed. At first he had a goofy and carefree appearance about him, but it seemed to Naruto that he found his resolve, for he stood with a determined and crazed expression. The weapon he wielded also surprised Naruto, it a weapon that Marluxia didn't need to wield. Surrounding him were multiple rings of what looked to be cherry blossoms, but these sakura were white. Where they came from also confused Naruto, they seemed to condense themselves right out of the mist surrounding him. What are those things? Naruto asked. Marluxia chuckled at Naruto's ignorance. Fine, I'll tell you if you really want to know. I'm called the White Sakura for a reason, because of these things right here. He said while pointing at one of the rings. This isn't any normal mist. This mist is actually my weapon. You see, when I super cool the water vapor in the air with my chakra, I can make sharp little ice droplets. With these I can attack you from a distance at will, but the reason for my name is because when I attack with these little droplets they flow like cherry blossoms would in a breeze, and when the light hits them they shine a brilliant bright white, hence the White Sakura. There, is that enough? Actually, yeah it is. Naruto said. Good, now die. Marluxia extended his arm and as if almost on cue, the rings around him all struck out like tentacles. Naruto activated his geostigma, making his eyes gain and retain an orange tint, before he charged straight toward the 4 tentacles of loosely compacted ice in front of him. No good. He sidestepped to the right to avoid the first barrage. He continued to charge in, the second came, this time he arched his body and ran low, going completely under it. Marluxia laughed and sent the last 2 tendrils of ice at Naruto, simultaneously. Naruto countered by coming to a slit and eventually sliding under the surface of the water. If you're wondering, Marluxia fights similar to the way Byakuya Kuchiki and Gaara fight. That won't work, Marluxia said as he sent all 4 barrages of ice into the water. His eyes widened before he was hit with a blast of water from underneath him, launching him into the air. There was a slight change in momentum and Naruto took his chance to attack. Before Marluxia could react, Naruto was above him, performing several front flips. Using the speed of his flips he switched into an enhanced axe kick, in an attempt to crush the Seiki member's skull. The kick came hard, fast, and most of all sharp. Sharper than most bladed weapons in an ordinary ninja's arsenal. That kick was beautiful, sure to land on its mark. It was Naruto's surprise attack and it was blocked, hard, unexpectedly hard. Naruto pumped a considerable amount of chakra into that kick and yet it was stopped by this black-clad freak of nature without so much as a single cringe. Naruto's eyes went wide with disbelief. Why don't you use that Kekkei Genkai of yours in a proper way? Naruto's eyes flashed orange with anger. This guy was toying with him like, well, a toy, and that pissed Naruto off to no ends. You know what? I think I will. I'm sick of that carefree little smile on your face. If you want to see my geostigma's power, then so be it. A ring of solid orange encircled Naruto's pupil. He meant war. Rage would fuel his actions and all rational thought would submit to the power in his eyes. Naruto was so engrossed in his rage that he failed to notice the black-clad foot rushing for him and hitting him dead center in the gut. Before he knew it, he was going down in a downward spiral, heading for the harsh and choppy water below. Damn you! He spat out before flipping over and landing on the water. Marluxia landed a couple of yards away from him, awaiting him approach. Thousands of minuscule ice shards flowed around him in a shower of pure white. There was a brief pause as they both waited for the tension to build. The wind blew, the tension grew, they both made their move. Marluxia was the first to move. A shower of white stormed for Naruto. A simple tactic of overpowering was his game. That's it. Those ice shards do nothing. My Kekkei Genkai gives me the power to manipulate almost any form of matter as long as there's a sufficient amount my chakra infused within it. So in other words, I can do something like this. Naruto extended an open hand out and suddenly a wall of water formed in front of and solidified, blocking the wave of ice from hitting. Futile. Naruto was cut off when Marluxia appeared past the wall, almost right next to him to be exact. He grabbed the loose sleeve of Naruto's jacket and flung him straight through his own ice wall. Naruto reacted by flipping over and touching the water and flinging several arc-shaped blades of water at Marluxia. So this is the power of the geostigma. Too bad that it was given to someone like you, he said while dogging all of the pressurized blades. Try this. He raised his hand in the air. Suddenly ice particles began to form above him, this time not in small numbers, they were much bigger in quantity. A vortex of light refracting ice floated above him. He smiled viciously and water began to swirl at his feet. Hanami. Cherry blossom viewing, as if on command a huge tidal wave of frozen fury came rushing at Naruto, freezing over the surface of the lake, giving it a fresh new coat of frost. Naruto was hit by a furious blast of ice. The attack was far too large for him to block. Before he knew it, his body went cold and numb from the ice. The tiny pieces of ice ripped and hacked at him, took little bits of his skin away, showing him no mercy. He kept his eyes closed to keep them from getting affected by the frozen shrapnel. It was a useless tactic. If any piece of ice decided to go through his eye, then it would, and a thin layer skin wouldn't protect his eyes at all. This onslaught continued on for several minutes. To him it felt like hours. It soon stopped, though, ending his cold-tipped pain. The attack had plunged him deep under the water by sheer force. The lake was frozen over. Only the small hole where he was forced through the ice showed any liquid water. Light shined in from that hole right onto his submerged face. Naruto could hear Marluxia let out a mad cackle on the surface above. He could hear how fervently he indulged in his own laughter. What was so funny? Was it Naruto's pain that made him laugh? Maybe Marluxia was some kind of sadist. Is this the extent of my own power? Naruto thought to himself as he continued on listening to Marluxia's passion. He sunk deeper into the cold black water. It was weird though, he was sinking. Weren't dead people always supposed to float? His eyes suddenly sprang open as it hit him. He wasn't dead and he still had a chance to escape. Naruto slowly touched his side and cringed from a sudden pain in his side. Through the murky depth of the water he could see a trail of blood floating to the surface of the water. Great, he thought, my blood floats but I don't, what a rip-off. Painfully, Naruto slowly swam to the surface of the water, heading for that hole of light from which he entered through the frozen lake. The need for oxygen grasped at his throat, urging him to hurry the up and get to the goddamn air already. He broke through the surface of the water, tasting the sweet and crisp air. He coughed a couple of times and lay on his back. Great, you're still alive. It looks like I can still kill you with my own hands then. He chuckled a few times. Naruto could have sworn that Marluxia was possessed by something otherworldly. There was something in his eyes that just confirmed it as he picked Naruto up by the hand. He punched him Naruto in the stomach. He spit up some blood. Another punch came, followed by another one. Soon Marluxia was pummeling Naruto's face, chest and abdominal regions. One after the other shots of pain filled into his body and swarmed like locust. He was sent flying into the air by a rogue punch. He felt another shot of pain enter his back and shoot him down toward the water, only to be caught by Marluxia's arms. He switched his grip and held Naruto by his head with one hand and Ed back with his left arm. His hand curled up making a fist, the skin on his hands turned white and almost split. Marluxia struck out with blinding speed as Naruto closed his eyes, awaiting his death. Is this the extent of my power? Is this all I can do? Maybe I was destined to fail. Too bad though I didn't even figure out the true name of the geostigma. In the short span of seconds before Marluxia crushed his face, Naruto thought all of these thoughts. Something was wrong. Nothing was happening. He expected to be dead by now. He opened his eyes to see Marluxia's hand being held back by another man's hand. Or should I say boy? His fist was only a couple of inches away from his face. A tall 18-year-old boy, dressed in the normal black Seiki trench coat, held a tight grip on Marluxia's arm. His hair was blonde, relaxed and spiky. He wore a solemn expression on his face, and his emerald green eyes burned with rage. He had a muscular build, and was stable in stature. His face was familiar to Naruto, like he had seen him before. He looked like someone he knew. This boy looked like Lerxine. Marluxia, he spoke. You, that's enough. Return back to the base. Zexin won't be pleased, you know. You came here without his permission and even alerted another human about the existence of this organization. How did? The boy cut him off. What? You thought I didn't know? I know that you told a certain Momochi Zabuza of the existence of the organization. Report back, and face your punishment. Marluxia shoved him off and just, to cheat. Fine. Marluxia said. He snapped his fingers and a funnel of ice enveloped him, blowing wind into Naruto's face. This isn't over, Namikaze. I'm still going to kill you, so just you wait. The next time you see my face, it'll be the last time you see anything. Remember this name, Marluxia Zerbast. The light shined off of the funnel of vibrant white, and in seconds Marluxia was gone with the ice and wind. Naruto saw that the blonde was still there. He decided not to leave with his partner. He had to ask the question now. Why did you save me? Because you saved her. What do you mean by that? My name is Lark Leones, Lerxine's brother. Naruto's eyes went wide. He knew he recognized that face. It was close to the same face that he fought not too long ago. The organization thinks she's dead now. You freed her from the burden of being in allegiance with the Seiki. For that I thank you, Namikaze Naruto. But don't take this lightly. The next time you are spotted by us, we will kill you and take away your Kekkei Genkei. Thank you. There's no need to thank me. I'm trying to kill you, remember? He stood silent. The water around began to evaporate. Protect her, he said as he burned away in a small mass of flames. I'll never get used to you ninjas doing that, Tazuna said, as he walked out the door.